the bumper. So those back for the race lead working together as it's another 2x2 fight for the lead with Cattell once more down low. Reynolds in the 30 will not let the 80 walk away with this. He's going to challenge him every single opportunity he can, and he'll cross over to the inside out of 4 to make another run at it.
It's like watching some dirt track racing on a Saturday night, isn't it, with all these crossovers? One of these guys gets a run, gets up the inside, slide jobs them, the other works the cutback and takes the lead right back. Blake Reynolds lost it for a moment, and he picks it back up as they go through one. Can the 46 of Mullis make something on the 80 of Cattell? Because Mullis has definitely had the run, and Cattell didn't like that top groove, but look at the momentum off of 2 for the 80. Here comes the cutback move once again. The 80 of Cattell going to run the slide job line in towards 3 and 4. Can't quite get clear. Yes, he can. He's going to get there. The 46 of Mullis blocks the cutback from Blake Reynolds, though, so that's going to be lead taken for Brandon Hayes. Cattell and Mullis 1 second.
Yeah, Mullis with the nose inside didn't allow the 30 to go back low, and as soon as he gets clear, there it is. So these two continue to go back and forth. It was Cattell that time, but a start-finish on it. In fact, the last time by, it was scored as a dead-even draw, down to 3 decimal points between those two. So looking very even as Jimmie Mullis, who's been pretty calm, now getting aggressive. He forces his way to the inside, so Cattell can't go low. He'll go to the outside, and watch him to enter high, exit low. It's what these two have done the last couple of times around. We'll see if the 80 car does it again. Drafts up, looks to the inside. There's the dive again, side by side for the race lead at lap 57. Incredible stuff.
They're playing a high-speed game of chess right now between these three, and if they continue to play it, they're going to enter some more players in behind. The 28 of Garrett Lowe, the 77 of Ashton Crowder have been exchanging that 4th place position, currently occupied by Garrett Lowe, but Ashton Crowder goes back to the inside as he battles it out for position number 4. And how about the independent Dylan Duval back there in position number 6, riding one of the best runs that he has had all season long in the Simcraft Ford, just there, just outside this battle. But as they continue to swap positions up in front, Evan, that 42 gets a little bit closer and trying to get that top 5 run to get that momentum that he needs heading into what would be a top 20 run, or at least trying to lock himself into the series for next year. And Ashton Crowder slides right up in front of him.
Not going to take our eyes off of the action, but a couple of laps to go past the halfway point in this Michigan 200. So let's take a look top to bottom at our iRacing Midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR and many more. The battle for the race lead has Brandon Cattell leading. He'll be atop the 46, and Jimmie Mullis in second. Blake Reynolds is currently scored third, and the 28 of Garrett Lowe is fourth. That'll probably be different in 2 miles from now as they complete lap number 59. But behind them, Ashton Crowder runs in 5th at the moment. Dylan Duval is P6. Your pole sitter Keegan Leahy down in 7th position. Corey Vincent's in 8th. Your biggest movers are right behind there. Taylor Hurst up 21 spots. He's in 9th. And Zach Novak rounds out your top 10.
And they keep changing in behind. Chris Overland last time by scored in 11th. Ray Alfalo last time by scored in 12th. Michael Conti in 13th on your screen, but he went up back to 14th. Kane Cook was 13th the last time by. Jarl T in 15th. Brian Schoenberg, Michael Guest, Adam Benefield, Casey Tucker, Malik Ray, top 20, and Randy. They continue to change, as you can see on your screen.
Yeah, they're even confusing the technology as our graphic seems to have forgot how to count. It's Logan Kress this time scored in 21st, Zelensky in 22nd, Ben Nelson in 23rd, Chris Shearburn started on the outside of the front row, buried in 24th in that Letard Esports entry. Ryan Luza, 25th, started in the back, has stayed there pretty much all race. Nicholas Shelton in 26th. Casey Kerwin got damage early. He's not yet recovered in 27th, with Onger, Davies, and Nichols rounding out your top 30.
Phil Diaz is 31st spot. Matt Busa scored in 32nd, with 33rd going to Ryan Lowe. Eric J. Smith 34th, and Nathan Lyon into P35. You also have the Christian Challenger, Michael Guerrilla, and Timmy Hill 36th, 37th, and 38th. That is a complete look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today and use promo code PREAK PR-eNASCAR 2019. You can get your first 3 months as a member for just $10. Again, that's PR-eNASCAR 2019. That applies to new iRacing memberships only. And something that is not new is the battle for the race lead, but this time it's the 62 to the inside. Keegan Leahy's joined the fun, and he leads it that time by.
You look at Keegan Leahy that last time by. 2 laps ago, Jimmie Mullis went to the inside. Keegan Leahy went further to the inside to try to pick up what would have been position number 3 at the time. 1 lap later, he's in the lead battling with Brandon Cattell and now pulling away a little bit from that number 80, Cattell. Cattell gets that draft down the back straight away and will try to get back into that inside. 63 laps completed this time by, and Evan, we're starting to get into that pit window, starting to see some of those drivers consider heading down onto pit road, and we'll see what happens here. This race does look green, or at least it has the last little bit.
Yeah, 38 or so is about the magic number on fuel, and we are inside of 38 laps to go in this race. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Blue Def Diesel Exhaust Fluid, certified pure #1 diesel exhaust fluid, and that means that drivers are starting to think about it, but the risk being, Randy, that we haven't seen a green flag run tonight that has brought us all the way to green flag pit stops. There's a risk that you come down to the pit lane. It's a long pit road here at MIS, that you could lose a lap, and if you're one of the first cars down pit road, a quick yellow comes out, you're trapped. So that would maybe be a reason why some drivers are hesitant. You do see 2 of them at the back of the field dive down, but your race leader is not yet willing to take it.
And honestly, if you're one of these other guys, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, you might have to come down for tires, because look at this 62 at Keegan Leahy. He was outside of the top 6 for a big chunk of this run. Maybe the only driver out there with a car built to last on the long green flag run, because he has absolutely ran away from the 80 and the 28, and they are not able to suck back up to him. So really good on the old tires at the moment is that 62 of Keegan Leahy. He's just building the gap lap on lap over the rest of these guys. He was 2.5 tenths quicker last trip around the racetrack, all by himself without any slipstream. 4 tenths quicker this time than the likes of Cattell. So that 62 car is moving.
We haven't seen an advantage for the race lead like this all night long. He's more than a half a second ahead in the battle for the race lead. Lowe and Cattell are still fighting like they were 10 laps ago, and this time it's just for second position as opposed to everybody else on back throughout the field. But, you know, Keegan Leahy comes into tonight 15 points behind Ryan Lewis in the championship standings. Yes, those points are going to reset, but Lewis is having a rough night down at P25. We could be looking at a new championship points leader for the first time in quite some time if the way they run holds through to the end of this race. 33 more laps to go next time by.
We've talked to these drivers, though, Evan, and they said the regular season championship is great, but at the end of the season, it's the championship that pays all the money, all the trophy, and all the prestige. So the regular season championship is great. They're concerned about locking themselves into the playoffs, though Ryan Lewis can make his effort a little more easier coming up at Bristol if he can pull up his socks here in this one at Michigan. But we still got some laps to run here. Jimmie Mullis takes a look to the inside of Brandon Cattell. This is the battle for position number 3. Ashton Crowder a part of this one, and they've got the next lap back, or the next driver back, by about 3 lengths, but Zach Novak is beginning to close in car number 6. So Novak, after starting off the evening a little bit subpar compared to where he probably wanted to, he is now back up into the top 10 and firmly into the top 10 as he gets that run down the back straightaway and sucks right up to this battle.
Last time by, Keegan Leahy was half a second faster than everybody else. His advantage went from 0.8 of a second to 1.3. He is blitzing the field here at Michigan as we await for your race leaders to come down to pit road for what would be the one stop they need on this run to get fuel that'll take them to the end. Lap number 100. Look at Cattell still to the outside. The 80 car almost just fenced it, trying to move to the outside as they're now over 1.7 seconds off the lead position. It is low on the outside in front of the 46 Samoas, but I mean, they're really starting to struggle. And what you have to look at here, Andy, is how long they've been on these tires. Restart came at lap number 43, so you're looking at a 26-lap run. We are still well over 26 to the end of this race, and 5 laps more will be there. So I think that's why these drivers are trying to go a little bit longer, split the run in half, because if they're this bad after 26 laps, who can imagine how bad they'd be if they dared pit with 36 to go at the end?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In some ways, I think you almost have to go a little long on this run just to make sure that you have good tires near the end of the race. So it's definitely an interesting strategy. Call it another car to keep an eye on. The 18 of Bobby Zielinski, VRS logos on that car, and that is a Coanda SimSport teammate to Keegan Leahy. Those two do work together, even though they're under different banners. So that 18 car has been moving through the field as Keegan has been picking up spots as well. So another car, the Joe Gibbs Racing Machine Interstate Batteries car of Bobby Zielinski, he's starting to pick up the pace as Keegan Leahy, he nearly opens it up to a 2-second gap with a huge flurry of cars on pit road.
Second place on the back is in. That includes Garrett Lowe, Jimmie Mullis at a 46, the 77 machine of Ashton Crowder also down. The 6 car is there. I think Ashton Crowder might have missed his pit stall. I'm not sure. He went to the left. Now he's going to be good at in. Almost looked like he thought it was further down to the pit lane, but these drivers are in. And now the ball is in the court of Keegan Leahy, who has been pulling away. Do you respond? Because they're instantly going to be much faster per lap. Keegan Leahy last time with a 39.7. I know it's not fair to compare his laps to everybody else, but even for him, that is about a second off of his best lap, so he's not falling off a ton. So all those cars are going to make up a second per lap for as long as the 62 stays out, and you can see them on the apron there. He has lapped them, so the concern about pitting first and being a lap down has come true for them, because at the moment, a lot of those cars now just got lapped by Keegan Leahy.
And second, third, and fourth, or who was second, third, and fourth, just came down pit road that last time by. The 62 of Keegan Leahy still stays out on the racetrack. We'll see if he decides to dive in here at the completion of lap number 72, and up the racetrack he goes through 3 and 4. So it looks like he's going to stay out at least one more lap, and indeed he will. Keegan Leahy will complete 72 on the racetrack. Ray Alfala was in second, and I say was because he's down on pit road. Bobby Zielinski going to stay out on the racing surface. Looks like the 66 of Tien going to come down onto pit road. Going to move Nick Shelton into the top 5 for the first time this evening through this cycle of pit stops. I'm going to put Brad Davies back up in the top 5 as Keegan Leahy continues to lead this thing down the back straightaway on the racetrack. We'll see if he decides to peel in this time.
Yeah, so shuffled up running order as you see a lot of the cars who just came down to the pit lane and have the fresh tires, making a quick work of the cars out there on old tires. We're 4 wide with some lap to traffic in turns 3 to 4, as it looks like Zielinski is going to come down and to give up the number 2 position. Yes, he is. Chris Shearburn also in from 3rd. Shelton from 4th, also down to pit road. So Brad Davies will assume 2nd position. Still waiting on Leahy to pit, and wonder why it's taking so long. Of course, Randy, we mentioned when we were trying to think of what the strategy was earlier, that there's a reason these guys have race strategists, the crew chiefs, the teams, they're all formulating a plan. But I mean, the 62's biggest advantage was he had the gap. They weren't going to be able to draft off him at 2 seconds plus between he and the rest of the field. They're going to be within striking distance. Now, if he's still this good on the long run, it doesn't even matter, but they're going to be with him, if not in front of him, after he pits.
I actually really like this call by Keegan Leahy because he has the advantage of being able to run long. So he's opened himself up a couple of second gap. So going into this last segment of the race, we know he's going to be the best on older tires. And if he waits about 10 laps, he's going to have 10-lap newer tires than everyone, which means he'll probably be able to pretty much blitz the field getting towards the end of it. It's definitely a risk. He is going to lose the race lead after he comes off pit road. There's no question about that. But I don't think anyone's going to have anything for him if this race goes green to the end. He's going to be on newer tires and on tires that we know are better going to the end. He's hitting pit road right now.
So he comes down to pit at lap number 75. So 25 laps to go in this race. He just completed a 30-lap green flag run. So Leahy is a perfect idea. He knows exactly how those tires are going to handle. This should almost complete our service cycle. I think with the exception of Davies, who has still stayed out, but Zach Novak will assume the race lead once all of this cycles through. Let's see how much of a disadvantage that the 62 machine is going to have to make up as he dips his 4 tires and exits the pit lane.
You've got about a half dozen cars or so that are still out on the racetrack that have yet to come down pit road. Brad Davies, Phil Diaz, you saw that battle on your screen. That'll end up being the battle for the lead, I do believe, as Christian Chalner was scored in fourth the last time by. So Brad Davies comes across the stripe here. Phil Diaz now in second place is Christian Chalner. Ryan Lowe will move to position number 4. Michael Guerrilla in position number 5. And then I think it kind of starts to cycle through a little bit. Timmy Hill will move up to position number 6. Look at this battle on your screen right here. 2 and 3 wide. These guys are wasting little time because this could end up being a battle for a top 5 position. You look at guys like Garrett Lowe, Jimmie Mullis in this battle, Zach Novak. It's time to go. These guys have been down on pit road. They need to put their money where their mouth is right now and try to make something happen as Brad Davies in the 88 and Phil Diaz continue to lead this thing ahead of this pack.
And right now it is the battle for 7th on back, but this is the battle for the race lead and what could be the race win. You saw blending back out and onto the racetrack that last time, slower off of the pit lane, try to get some momentum going, was that 62 machine of Keegan Leahy. So by staying out, he's back in the traffic, but he does have those fresh tires, Randy, and he's going to bring it around the inside line. And I wonder how much of a chance these drivers will stand as Keegan Leahy, who has been so good on the long run, now also has the best car on the short run.
And this is what I was talking about, why he didn't even really lose much time staying out. He's out here fighting for the net lead with 6 and 7 lap newer tires. Look at the 62 on the bottom. He just drives around all of them like they're standing still. The 6 and Novak trying to hold it outside. Brandon Hayes Cattell, the only one that he's not really fighting with at the moment, but through 3 and 4, that's going to change. That G2 Esports car is going to absolutely be hooked up on the bottom. He is on rails right now, and there is nothing anyone can do about it. Move that 62 car back into the race lead. He didn't waste much time at all. That was almost anticlimactic.
Well, it goes to show you that that team knew what they were doing. They were willing to go up the track position because he did lose the race lead, but he's not concerned. Cattell's going to pinch him down. It does not matter. Keegan Leahy clear at turn number 2, leads out in the battle again that right now is for P7, but when Davies, Diaz, Lowe, Guerrilla, Challenger, and Hill have to come down to the pit lane, he will once again assume the race lead. It is now 21 laps away from trying to secure the race win here tonight at Michigan. Of course, this weekend you'll see the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series here at MIS as well. Let's take a look at what you could expect to see this weekend.
Everything happens so fast.
Correct.
We're reading out of control.
It's a big mental game. Nothing ever goes to plan.
Pressure's on. Pressure's on to perform.
Timmy Hill now in the 63 machine is the only driver still out. He is slow on the inside of the corner. He is also going to come down pit road for the final time, and it will all cycle through. Keegan Leahy in the number 62 car will go back to the race lead, just hoping that we stay incident-free for the next 17 laps, and it looks like it's his race to lose.
Yeah, he definitely would, I think, would prefer for this race to go green to the end with the speed that G2 Esports car has and the gap that he has, because there's nothing anyone else has for him. He will win this race pretty much guaranteed if that is the situation. But look at everyone else behind him. They've really single filed out from Brandon Hayes Cattell on back. I think they're just trying to maintain that gap to the 62 any way they can, if there's somehow some way that G2 Esports car drops off. As they say that, Chris Overland, he works the inside of the 46 of Jimmie Mullis through 3 and 4, as they both are caught up right now behind the 74 of Taylor Hurst, who's been able to lurk his way up to a 3rd place running order at the moment. That 74 car, not talked much about him, but got himself in a great position at the moment as Mullis pushes the 16.
It's kind of incredible to look at the complexion of the top 10 right now, Tim. Only 2 cars running inside of the top 10 actually started there. Keegan Leahy, your pole sitter, who's leading this race, and in fact, Ray Alfala, who started 7th and is also in that exact same position on the racetrack right now. But huge moves for the likes of Taylor Hurst, who started in 30th position, runs in 3rd, and he's not even the biggest mover because Chris Overland behind him started in 32nd position and runs in 4th. So a lot of cars have used the draft, taken advantage of some of the restarts, some of the incidents that involved cars that were running towards the front of the field to make up a lot of track position, and a great turnaround for a handful of cars up front. In fact, if you go back to 19th, only 3 cars in the top 19 started top 10.
And when you look at that second, third, and fourth place position, I think you mentioned it. There's three drivers that haven't had the best of seasons, looking to really turn the momentum around and try to get them at least what would be a top 20 run here in this 2019 championship point battle. But you look at Cattell, Hurst, and Overland really looking to turn the page here. A couple laps ago, Ray Alfala in the 21 jacked up that 30 of Blake Reynolds off a turn at number 2. That was almost a caution flag. They somehow got it back to single file, and Ray Alfala still working the back of that Team Dillon Esports number 30 of Blake Reynolds. Ray Alfala, one of the best runs that he's had of late in this season, and trying to at least turn it into a top 5 run. He gets the run off of corner number 2, but nowhere to put it, and they are closing in quickly on Garrett Lowe. This is about to be a battle for position number 6 as that battle for second continues to heat up.
Yeah, Cattell once again under fire. Taylor Hurst trying to make some noise. Randy, remember when this race was a toss-up, but we really didn't have a clear favorite? Well, Keegan Leahy's still sitting 1.3 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. We're still seeing that draft play a major factor in these fights from second on to back. Cattell can't get away. Hurst is on him. Overland's on him. These cars are probably going to fight all the way to the end of this race, but they just cannot make up the Tomba race leader. He's at a completely different zip code. Check it out. Still a ton of action behind him, but man, has the 62 machine surprised us on this longest run of the night now.
Yeah, he really has with the tire strategy. No one saw it coming, especially because we were consistently going 10 laps yellow, 8 laps yellow, 15 laps yellow. Then we finally break out a long green flag run that started off of a restart on lap number 40, lap number 43. And it's been pretty much clean and green from there. And it doesn't look like we're going to be likely seeing an incident with so much of the field single file. I see the first side-by-side, 16th. Nicholas Shelton's in this fight. Ben Nelson's in this fight. Casey Tucker as well in the independent number 19. So a lot of cars here down towards your top 20. That's really your first side-by-side on the racetrack. And generally speaking, when the whole field gets single filed out, that's when you start seeing the race is likely to go green, as Taylor Hurst is going to make a move for second.
Taylor Hurst wants to try again, and the number 74 machine has got it. So moving into second position, Taylor Hurst, nicely done, dove it into the inside of 3, cleared him, but Cattell wound that car back up, and it looked like it was a done deal. Instead, Cattell is right back in front and clearing turn 1. So what a drive by Brandon Cattell to come right back on him. And if that doesn't send a message that he's not going to make it easy on him, I don't know what will, because that was an impressive drive by both the 74 to make the initial pass and for Cattell to come right back on him. I wonder if the 16th machine of Chris Overland wants to mix it up, or if he'll just sit back, let them eat away at their tires, and try to make a move late, because this time we are at 10 laps to go.
Overland tried to go to the outside when that move was made by Cattell, but just couldn't do it. Here comes the 74 back to the inside. Taylor Hurst trying to make it happen. Keep an eye on that spin number 16 of Chris Overland to see if he can get him a run and see if he can make a move on these two. Hurst sideways at a corner number 2, going to get that momentum to the outside of Cattell, and keep an eye on the 16. Hurst slams the door and Overland has to pull his foot out of it. Jimmie Mullis is going to close in on this one as well. This battle for second is getting intense in the final 10 laps of competition.
And that 16 bobbles a little bit as the 46 got on the bumper. This final portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bed Liner. The tough comes easy, and nothing going to come easy out of this battle for second position on the back. 4 cars, toss a blanket over them. Cattell, Hurst, Overland, Mullis. You've even got Garrett Lowe lurking in the back. Blake Reynolds, Zach Novak. Here's where that draft comes into play, keeping everybody together. Not a lot of separation here. The gap between first and second is 3 seconds. You have the next 7 cars separated by less than 1.
Yeah, it's tight here from second on back, and these guys are about to get really aggressive with one another because there are some point situations at play here. We know Jimmie Mullis is trying to get his way into the top 8. Garrett Lowe's trying to make himself safe potentially going into Bristol. How about that 6 of Novak? He currently sits 8th, trying to work the 30 of Blake Reynolds going in towards turn 3. Novak currently on the outside looking in. He needs to get his way up into that safe point, into the top 8. Blake Reynolds already in the top 8 as well. So that 6 of Novak starting to move as he's got that 21 of Alfala behind him as well, as we watch this 3-car fight between the 80, the 74, and the 16.
And really hard to see who has an advantage over anybody. It used to be kind of Overland was the caboose in this fight, but I don't think Overland's worried about Taylor Hurst right now. He's just trying to stay in front of the 46 car behind him, and Mullets is getting pushed by Garrett Lowe. So everybody, I think, only working with one another for the benefit of eventually trying to pass somebody, but you can see these cars are still drafting with each other. The 74 machine of Hurst, a little bit higher. That Tomba 2 is plastered on the back of Cattell. You can see that shot off.
We got a car around on the back straightaway.
Flag.
I don't know who it is, but there's a car spun down on the runoff. It is Nicholas Shelton in the 79 Clint Boyer racing car. What happened to him?
And this changes it all. A yellow with 6 laps to go. The replay shows that he had a little bit of help. It was a move that we had seen many a times tonight, Tim. He slid up in line. He did cut off the 42 machine of Dylan Duval, and Duval did not appreciate it, so he stayed in the gas. It loosened the 79 car up, and eventually he spun out off of the nose of Dylan Duval, and the 3-second race lead for Keegan Leahy is gone, and we are going to have a late race restart. Pace card added in, just 2 laps left to go on the scoring to pylon as we go back green at Michigan. It is an unofficial green-white checkered finish, this time by 98 laps down, 2 laps to go. It's Chris Overland into turn number 1. Keegan Leahy on the outside. They are only side by side for the race lead, but watch the row behind as they come out at 2. How many cars are going to make a dog? Watch the 28 low. Watch 46 of Mullis. It's a spinach on the outside to Leahy as Overland blocks the inside.
Down the back straightaway and in towards 3 and 4. Most of the field 2 abreast, couple 3 wide near the back, but up the inside goes the 16 of Chris Overland through 3 and 4. Will they make it to the white flag, and will we finish within 100 laps? They come off of turn 4. Everyone's still straight. White flag waving at the starter stand, and we are going to do this in regulation. The 62 leads into 1.
He's got a small advantage. The 46 of Mullis is pushing him. The 16 of Overland still on the inside, but no support. He gets sideways. Overland slides up and turns Keegan Leahy. He'll reckon it's a big crash at a turn 2, but who can pick up the pieces down the back straightaway? It's a drag race with a handful of cars trying to make it to the end, blocking all the way to the inside as here comes the 30 of Blake Reynolds down on the inside of the 28 of Garrett Lowe. Side by side. Overland watching from 3rd, tries to find a way through. He'll go to the middle line to the outside, and in a 3-wide finish, it is Garrett Lowe, winner at Michigan.
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
It's decision time, NASCAR fans. Who gets you the points? Who gets you the wins? Who gets you the bragging rights? Who gets you the championship? Sign up and play today at NASCAR.com/fantasy.
The road to $100,000 takes on the last great Coliseum, where tonight for the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the 14th and final race of the regular season in this 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. So happy that you're with us tonight from Thunder Valley, right here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. It is Evan Pasoko and Randy Cheneth upstairs with you in the booth. Our director downstairs is Hugo Luis. And Randy, coming off of what you just saw as a thrilling finish 2 weeks ago in Michigan, we have finally reached it. It is the cut line. We will find out after 250 laps of action tonight who our 8 playoff drivers will be.
Evan, I'm going to be honest, I've not been this excited for a race in a long time. It's a very, very long break this track has taken from the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series, and it's going to be fantastic. And like you said, we have the playoff graphic up right now. Brian Luza, Garrett Lowe, Blake Reynolds, the only 3 that are mathematically safe coming into this. Bobby Zelensky and Keegan Leahy also in very good situations, but it's down there near that blue cut line that we're looking at, monitoring the top 8. Zach Novak, tied for most wins this season. He finds himself on the bubble, only 7 points to the good. You have the likes of Nick Ottinger not very far out, and then Casey Kerwin and Christian Challoner a little bit down the order than I'm sure they would like, but I think they're still in striking distance. And you of course have Jimmie Mullis up there, only 8 points ahead of Novak. He's not looking very strong either.
Yeah, so everybody in blue, not mathematically locked, but you mentioned the Zelenskys, the Leahys, the DeContis had to be pretty comfortable. Kerwood and Challoner, they're really going to need something to go their way, but I'm looking at Mullis, I'm looking at Novak and Ottinger. Those 3 drivers are really going to be the ones we're watching tonight, and those positions can change restart to restart, and it is Bristol, so maybe even wreck to wreck. We'll see if they can still all stay out of trouble, but this is what the playoff grid looks like coming into this evening. Only Ryan Luza, Garrett Lowe, and Blake Reynolds know that they're going to be racing at Darlington next week to kick off the postseason. Those other 5 spots below them will be filled in following tonight's contest. And I did want to follow up the point that you made, Randy. You mentioned it. It's been a while since we bid Bristol on the calendar. It absolutely has. It's the 3rd time we're seated in competition. The last time we saw it was in 2011 when Thomas Hazard won it. The year before that, Richard Towler took the win in the first ever season of this PEAK series, so it's been a long time. A majority of the field may not have even been sim racing the last time this track was on the calendar.
Yeah, well, as young as this field is, I think we probably wouldn't have even seen the majority of this field in middle school last time this track was on the season. So it's going to be a great show. We take a look at, of course, the schedule of what we've run thus far to getting to this point now that we're halfway down the right side of that graphic. I mean, it feels weird. It feels like just the other day that we were talking about Eric J. Smith winning the race at Auto Club, and of course the fantastic race at Richmond and the great show that Talladega provided. Time flies when you're having a fun and really impactful championship, and all of the world championships on iRacing have been a blast, but this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze series, it has been absolutely fantastic every single week. And man, I'm so excited for this race. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but there's going to be plenty of drama after this one.
Yeah, drama to say the least. Of course, Bristol is Bristol. It's 250 laps. The laps don't take long. I mean, under green flag conditions, we're going to be talking about low 15-second lap times. The drivers into practice right now, putting some down in the mid-14s. The top car into practice at the moment, Corey Vincent, with the Leahy, Clampett, Lyon, and T in your top 5. So maybe those are going to be some names to look for as we go racing this evening. Another unique thing that we were discussing at pre-race, Randy, is how important qualified was, which wrapped up a little bit ago. It'll either pick on the front stretch or the back stretch, and those are separate here at Bristol. Pitting on the front straightaway is a huge benefit for caution to flag stops, and also having that #1 pit stall is even more important here than anywhere else when you talk about that pit exit line being right at the exit of pit stall #1. So qualifying, huge at Bristol. It's important any week, but maybe especially tonight at the Last Great Coliseum.
And that would have been one of the primary objectives for me coming into this and getting things sorted as a driver in this practice session. The only track on the schedule with split pit roads. The first thing I do after loading into the session, I go out and I see where my pit box is. You don't want to make that mistake of heading down the wrong pit road, especially during competition and especially during green flag stops. That's a disaster. Of course, another difference that we don't have to do from real life, of course, these guys, during the cautions, you only have to go down the pit roads you go down on. Compare that to Cup in real life, where you have to roll through both pit roads regardless of where you see yourself on pit road. So that's going to make things interesting. Might see that really shake up the grid as we're getting ready to set that starting grid here for 250 laps around Bristol.
And it may look overcast, but don't you worry. That is the sun dipping behind the grandstands. Let's go night racing at Bristol Motor Speedway. Take a look trackside at tonight's Race Spot TV starting grid. Corey Vincent will start on pole position for this one. The number 27 machine will bring us to the green flag. Keegan Leahy outside of the front row will start in second position. Logan Clampett, Nathan Lyon, they're going to make up row 2, start in third and fourth position respectfully. Jarl Tien exactly where he was practice, the top 5 car P5. Taylor Hurst starting in 6th position. Casey Kerwood will start in 7th. Benjamin Elson there with him at 8th, spotted back on row 5. Jake Nichols rolls from 9th, and Bobby Zelensky rounds out your top 10.
Two drivers we're going to be talking a lot about tonight, Michael Connie and Nick Ottinger. They're going to find themselves on row 6. Ray Alfala and Matt Busa on row number 7. Another driver to be watching with the point situation, Jimmie Mullis and Ashton Crowder on row number 8. Michael Griglia and Ryan Lowe on row 9 with Zach Novak and Nick Shelton rounding out your top 20.
Field begins to roll. Chris Sherburne starts 21st, and Dylan Duvall in 22nd. Blake Reynolds and Phil Diaz at next row, 23rd, 24th. Cody Bias, Brian Schoenberg, 25th and 26th. Christian Challoner is 27th. Brad Davies is 28th. Casey Tucker, P29. Garrett Lowe in 30th. And the rest of the field will see Logan Kress, Michael Guest, Kane Cook, Timmy Hill, Eric J. Smith, Malik Gray, Brandon Cattell, and Adam Benefield through 38th position. But the reason Bristol's so much fun, Randy, just a smidge over a half mile in length, but it is those 26 to 30 degrees of banking that makes this place such a boring and for what is really going to be an intense regular season finale tonight.
Yeah, it is. I think tempers are going to flare, especially with that point situation down there in, near the cutoff spot for the top 8. So expect fireworks, expect to see some sparks coming off the bottom of those race cars as they bottom out, and especially when this sun goes down. And remember, 250 laps around this place. This race, if we start chanting yellows together, could be the longest amount of time these guys spend in the race car all season long. It's going to be a fantastic show, and I can't wait to see who's going to be fighting for the lump sum of $100,000 over the final 4 races of the championship in 250 laps time.
An exciting race city time, but especially so tonight as the regular season finale. We're happy that you're with us at Race Spot TV and the iRacing Esports Network as we say, let's go night racing at Bristol. Green flag in the air for the first time as they ring them through 1 and 2.
Now the question has to get answered. Are you going to run the bottom? Are you going to run the top? Seems like people trying to get to that middle groove, which is where Corey Vincent's going to be. But look at Keegan Leahy in the 62. He's going to run the outside and just about take that race lead at the stripe. The gap at the line, .000, and the 27 is going to lose the race lead and fall down to 3rd.
You can see most cars moving up to the outside line. The number 99 at Clampett takes over 2nd. Here comes the 4 for Latardi Sports. That's Nathan Lyon. He'll take a spot away. Jarl Tien due up next. So it may have felt like a good idea for Corey Vincent at the time to go to the inside and fight for the race lead. But he's lost 4 spots since then. May finally have room. No, the 74 Hurst up there as well. So that Renegades entry is pinched down low. Nowhere to go with the 14 of Kerwood on his back bumper.
The top early, definitely where you're wanting to be, as the 27 of Corey Vincent continues to fall. Bit of a breakaway for your top 2, though, for Keegan Leahy and Logan Clampett. That 99 of Logan having a great starting position. I think some of the best he's qualified all year, and he's running strong at the moment as well. Look at that driver in 3rd, the 4 of Nathan Lyon. Not a driver we've been seeing having the sort of speed and getting up there near the front of these fields early, but he qualifies great inside of the top 5, puts himself P3. We see him right now, first car, running all the way to the bottom that time, and he's going to run it again this time through 3 and 4. So maybe that orange Latard Esports car starting to run a different end of the racetrack than everyone else.
Yeah, the RacingJobs.com Chevy was, as I mentioned, fastest in the practice session. So running 3rd right now in a very good position as we do start to see a little bit of separation towards the front of the field. Still the first side by side. You see him there, that 27 Vincent on the inside, not having a good time. The 33 Nelson's gotten around him. Bobby Zelensky's gotten around him. Nick Ottinger, the latest. And even the 14 car, Casey Kerwood, who was on his bumper, has moved up to the outside line to make the pass there as well. So he's really not having a good time. Vincent started this race on pole position, but again, that inside positioning on the front row, I think you have to give a lot of credit to Keegan Leahy, Randy, for getting the good jump at the outside, keeping him pinched down there, and he's dropped nearly all the way outside of the top 10.
and he took his opportunity, didn't he? The moment he could get up to the top side of the racetrack, he got there. As we watch the fight between the 20 and the 21, this is for 11th and 12th on the racetrack, as Ray Alfala running that slightly quicker groove up top, but we know that the bottom line is going to be a little bit better on the tires. Ray Alfala is going to just about get clear of the 20 of Jake Nichols, but not quite this time into the corner. Let's see if he can get the run coming off and down this back straightaway and in towards 3 and 4. Still not quite clear, but the 20 of Nichols continues to fall. And next driver he's going to have to deal with, the winner from Pocono, the 46 of Jimmie Mullis.
You know, again, we would be remiss to not mention four-time there. Ray Alfala has had a rough couple of weeks, but has really picked it up since then. But even with those fast cars, hasn't gotten to finishes. Not going to be competing in these playoffs after completing a couple of rough finishes, but trying to fight to stay in this series. He wins out of that exchange. It's still the 20 of Nichols down on the inside line, but at least early on answering the question that the outside line is the way to go. We are seeing some drivers a little bit lower, center of the corner off, almost diving in a little bit to try to get some run. But of course, when you ring it off at the top side, you get a lot of speed. I know the straightaways aren't long, but still carrying that momentum with this package is awfully critical.
It is. It's what makes I think running this place so important. You have to have the corners really set up. And I think one of the things we're also going to see here tonight as well, Evan, is the cars as we still watching this fight with the 20 of Jake Nichols. You see the 8 of Michael Conti in there, the 6 of Zach Novak. He's buried back in that fight as well. With so many laps on the board, you're going to be cornering a lot more than we typically see. You know, think about most of the races we see, you might be doing 80 to 130 laps. You're going to be cornering, what is that? Do the quick math in my head. This is always a risk. You're not going to be cornering that often, only maybe 200-300 times over the course of the race, maybe a bit more. Here tonight, you're basically going to be turning that race car 1,000 times. So those tires are going to be feeling it a lot more. Even if the race per mile is maybe shorter, the tire is definitely going to be getting more of a workout. Look at the 5 down there on the bottom of Matt Busa, trying to work his way up into 17th on the 7 of Ryan Lowe. He's going to just about get clear and start working on Jake Nichols. Maybe that bottom line starting to come in, and some more and more cars seem to be moving to it.
Yeah, just as Conti goes to the outside, Busa brings his Chill Blast Williams Esports Toyota right back down to the inside and is almost convinced the 7 car behind him to do the same thing. Lowe's kind of following him a little bit, much lower that time though, as the 5 machine side by side with Nichols in this battle for position. And again, this is where you're going to get center of the pack, as nobody's going to find any separation. You're going to be going at it all night long. Another car on the inside a little bit further up the hill, Jimmie Mullis, who on the inside line is trying to battle with Ray Alfala, the 77 of Ashton Crowder in this mix. Don't forget the 6 of Zach Novak either. When you talk about drivers who are trying to take care of business here tonight, Novak comes in as the last driver into the playoffs, only 7 points atop Ottinger. He's doing really good right now if he can maintain where he runs P14.
He needs to have a good run here, and it's sort of been the disaster season, I think, for Novak to be tied with most wins this season at 3 and be on the bubble. It shows a lack of consistency from that Roush Fenway Racing number 6, so maybe Novak can at least put in a solid run and get himself into the top 8. We've been sort of looking here down to the mid-pack. The race lead is great at the moment. Top 3 cars separated by half a second, and Clampett and Lyon are pretty consistently lapping quicker than that 62 at Keegan Leahy, who coming into this race we're expecting to have maybe worked on the car to run for a short run a little bit better. Think back to the last race we saw at Michigan, where Keegan Leahy definitely had the long run set up on that race car. Nearly looked like he was basically in it to win it, guaranteed, and we got that late green-white checkered. One little contact with Chris Overland killed the 62's dreams in that respect, but of course still in a great situation in the points and looking great here tonight out at Bristol. Your top 3 remain within half a second of one another.
And they pulled significantly further away as well from the rest of the field. So 4th place is Jarl Tien, so a very good showing this early on for the G2 gang, but you know, Tien's about 2.5 seconds off of your top 3. So 1st, 2nd, and 3rd really all on top of each other. I think Lyon are trying to work over Clampett in a battle for 2nd and 3rd, but a unique thing to Bristol is we're going to catch lap traffic pretty quickly. It's been a good start through the opening 27 laps here. Everybody who started this race, all 38 cars, still scored on the lead lap. That is going to change though as your leader catches up to Logan Crest. The number 31 car will stay high, leave the inside open, and Leahy's going to get by him without issue. Randy, 1 car, not a huge problem, but the longer into a green flag run you get, you start to find packs of 2 and 3 lapped cars, and man, can it get hairy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, at the moment, Logan Crest being the only car, not really a problem. Those top three are going to get away from him, but still, just basically separated by the back straightaway. Keegan Leahy, the next driver he's going to find in line is the 63 at Jimmie Hill, and then after that, it's, you know, a couple car lengths. You get a couple cars, and of course, the difficult thing dealing with lap traffic at this place, Evan, at some of the bigger racetracks, you can often see the traffic get strung out. Here, this place is so compact, and everyone's so on top of one another. You're not going to be dealing with just one car at a time. You're going to be having to come up on two cars that are side by side, and you might have to wait 5, maybe 10 laps before an opportunity for you really presents itself to be able to pick up that track position and get by all that lap traffic.
And of course, if you're preferring to maybe the outside over the inside, then working lap traffic can be challenging based on where those cars give you the space. And if a battle for the race lead, say, were to come up on some lap traffic, you can see some drivers almost try to use those slower race cars as a pick to get up and around. Still watching this battle for the race lead, Keegan Leahy, after starting in second position, has been in control from the get-go. You're on board with Nathan Lyon, the Lotardi Sports entry. Third place on track, has backed off about a half a car length from the 99 at Clampett, so a little bit of breathing room there, but it's funny. Leahy looks to be like 2 lanes up the racetrack. The 99 at Clampett was in the middle, and the 4 was all the way on the inside. So these cars trying to stay from being tucked up behind one another, so get some downforce to the nose of that machine, help it ring around. I know Bristol's a short track. We talk about it being one of the places where you could probably race with a damaged race car more so than other places, but you still got to keep your equipment clean. It's a big part of this race.
And the average speeds around this place for how short it is are extremely high. I mean, these guys are not dropping below 100 miles an hour the entire half-mile trip around the racetrack. That's really odd for one of these short tracks. You think about some of the others, you might see them down in the 80s and 90s, especially at a place like Martinsville, although that has uniquely sharp corners. But because of that, the aerodynamics on the race cars going to be a little bit more important than some of the other half-mile racetracks you might see. You're still watching those top 3 cars, all fishing for different lanes, all fishing for lap traffic. And of course, here at Bristol as well, Evan, you're going to be so much buried in traffic and around other cars that I think one of the other things you're going to do as well is maybe set that car up to run on a different lane, or at least make a lane where it works best. If you think everyone's likely to run the middle of the top side of the racetrack, if you're that 4 Nathan Lyon, he seems to have that thing dialed on the bottom line, and I think that's going to really work out and play into his favor, especially just getting clean air. That's going to help the tires, and we know that bottom line tends to be good on the tires as well. So I think that 4 Nathan Lyon, if we get a little bit deeper into this run, maybe 30, 40 laps from now, we might see him as one of the strongest cars, if not the strongest car on the racetrack.
And if you're a casual observer of sim racing, to the point, Randy, you may not realize just how much of that kind of testing goes into this with all these teams working on their own setups. We're talking about thousands of hours, not just the guy who's driving the car tonight, but as well development drivers and the guys who build the setups. And look at the analytics, how much they put into building a setup for a race in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series. So they have a very good idea of what they're going to have when they get onto the racetrack. And that's why I think you're seeing the 4-car Nathan Lyon going to the inside line, not working at the moment, but at least having confidence that that is the kind of attack that he wants to take. More lap traffic, though, on the horizon, and there is some battling going on throughout the field. Ray Alfala side by side with Ben Nelson. That's back at 8th position, but your leaders are about to catch a wall of traffic, side by side, in fact, with Cody Bias and Jimmie Hill in an exchange for 36th and 37th. So it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate as there's a move by Nelson to the inside.
I mean, that was a move to the inside. He was trapped in the middle between Logan Crest and Ray Alfala. Remember that lap car that we saw a number of laps ago? Got 3 wide and nearly piled up a handful of race cars there, as Ben Nelson's now going to go back to working on that lap traffic. But here we go, race leaders into this fight now, and this is what I was talking about. If you're the 62 at Keegan Leahy, if you're Logan Clampett, if you're Nathan Lyon, where do you go to get around these guys? They're going to be 3 wide for the lead, and Logan Clampett says the middle's where you're going to go, and he's going to lead a lap here at Bristol. He's going to take that lead away from the 62 at Keegan Leahy, and they're trying to go 4 wide there with a 55.
Leahy had been perfect all night, but he's going to get boxed down there, and both Logan and Clampett and the 4 and Nathan Lyon are going to get around him. So new race leader, it's Clampett Nation out in front at Bristol. And Keegan Leahy, who at least in clean air had all the answers, gets relegated back to 3rd. That is how critical lap traffic is here at Bristol, and we're not done yet. Now that Clampett's in control, can he navigate the traffic properly? Jimmie Hill's on the inside. At a flip side tack, Tactics Toyota. He'll leave the outside open, so the 99 is going to go high. Looks like Nathan Lyon will follow him. But if you're that lead car as far as the lappers, Landy, and you try to take it easy at all, a small lift to try to play it safe, the guy behind you is going to pounce on it. So you have to be committed and give it 100% when you decide to make a move on these lapped cars.
It's one of those things, of course, here on iRacing, we have so many different forms of racing. I think some of the guys who maybe have some multi-class experience working lap traffic when endurance and that sort of stuff may have a little bit of an advantage here with all the lap traffic, because you're absolutely right. You have to be decisive. You don't want to be going into the corner and say, I don't really know where I want to go. You have to pick a lane. I don't care if that's where the faster car wants to go. You make them go the other way around, and you have to stay there and stay consistent. Don't try to get out of the way, because sometimes that can be what makes the mistake happen. Of course, don't do anything to really block them or anything like that, but pick a lane, stick to it. As with these guys all getting caught up in the lap traffic, the 66 of Jarl Tien, he's been making good time trying to get back up in towards your top three, as Logan and Nathan still trying to work the lap traffic. Next car they'll have in line will be the 90 of Malik Ray.
That onboard shot with Leahy, you can actually see some of the right front damage he has on that car, but you mentioned his teammate Jarl Tien has pulled away significantly from Bobby Zelensky at 5th. On back, Zelensky funded with Kerwood actually for 5th and 6th position right now, but Tien has gone from nearly 4 seconds back to only a second and a half off the front, so his G2 car seems good. We'll see if he can get up and into the battle here in just a little bit. Nathan Lyon back to the inside on Clampett, and the 99 is going to get boxed out. The 4 is going to push right up on him. This is how Clampett got the race lead away from Leahy, by sticking it behind a lap car. The 99 wants to go to the middle, but there is not enough room. And how's that for a taste of your own medicine, as Nathan Lyon now goes to the race lead.
Look behind the 62 of Keen Leahy. He's trapped 3 wide with lap traffic back there, so he's going to lose a little bit of ground, and his teammate Jarl Tien is going to close in. So we talked about the fact that the 4 Nathan Lyon looking so strong down there on the bottom might be an advantage for him, and it panned out right there, Evan. He was able to get alongside the 99 to clamp it, be able to stay down there long enough to catch the right bit of lap traffic and box that 99 to the top side of the racetrack, and because of that, Nathan Lyon leads what I believe are going to be some of the first laps of 2019 for him, and he's already opening up a gap. Largest I think we've seen the gap for the race lead be. It's up to 0.6 of a second and a second and a half now between your top 3.
We'll see how long this lasts. It seems each pack lap traffic we hit it does shuffle up the race leading order, but the 4 machine blended in between a couple of lapped cars. Logan Crest next up on deck. Lead lap now down to just 32 cars. So this is going to be something that continues into these runs. Get 57 laps green from the start here tonight at Bristol Motor Speedway. Lyon leads atop Logan Clampett and Keegan Leahy, but his teammates there. So this is really the next battle for the race top race positions. The 62 and the 66 are on each other's bumpers right now in traffic, so that may be a big factor in all of this, but based on the speed the last few laps, I'd say Jarl's going to be getting it here soon.
Yeah, Jarl's definitely looking more comfortable. We mentioned the fact that Keegan, coming into this race, seemed like he'd be setting up for the short runs on the strategy and on the tires. So maybe that 62 feeling that he's not looked strong from what we saw to him early on in comparison with that early run when he had the race lead, was out there in clean air. But he's not really had anywhere near the pace the 4 and the 99 have been able to maintain since they've gotten clear of that lap traffic. And of course, with the fuel runs here, we're not even halfway through this fuel run yet. We're really expecting it somewhere in the realm of about 135, nearly 140 laps on the fuel, so you can potentially do this race on one stop. And the head of Keegan heard the 31 of Logan Crest. He's already going down another lap here. He scraped that wall on the driver's right-hand side of the racetrack, so struggling is that 31, as he's going to be the first to go down 2 laps here tonight.
Yeah, that Kirkwood Chevy's been having a couple of bobbles, not looking all that comfortable, as the 62 Leahy, at least not in a hurry to get out of the way of his teammates. So Jarl Tien stays tucked up behind him. There's the onboard shot, and the 66 may have an advantage here by not being side by side to take that wider arc into the corner. He does stay lower on exit, so even amongst team cars, some different driving strategies playing a factor in all of this, and now it is just going to be a crazy mix of who's on the lead lap and who's not.
31, excuse me, the 42 is involved in the spin at the bottom side of the racetrack. I think we're going to stay green with a 42 at Dylan Duval. A little bit of contact, and he'll be the first car we see go around tonight.
You saw that aggressive dive to the inside. He was the one that got spun around. No caution, though. We'll stay green.
That was off the nose of your race leader.
Traffic right in front of him, and he actually, I think he might get penalized for being on pit road for the 42, but he's back going.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there for Dylan Duval. Spun in such a way that he really not going to get the yellow, but you're right, he goes past that commit line, and he actually ended up with a disaster. He was kind of forced to rejoin back onto the racetrack, and actually race control going to waive that penalty for him, so we will not have to see the 42 of Dylan Duval come down pit road. Not much he could really do to avoid that, so great call there by race control. Two great ones actually in terms of black flags and penalties and clearing them. We saw a similar situation in the World of Outlaws race last night, but that's what we're talking about, Evan. That 42 went around off the nose of your race leader. That's the sort of situations Bristol presents and what we get abroad and what we see and why fans love this place. And now your race leader of Nathan Lyon probably going to calm down a little bit after what was likely a pretty big scare for him.
And that's the thing with Bristol. It doesn't matter if it's in that case where literally it's the contact with your race leader. It could also happen behind, directly behind the leader. They're only talking about now as we are into this run, 16-second lap times. If that scene of the accident, if there's no yellow like in that case, and you got somebody like a Dylan Duval spun on the inside line, basically stopped, well, you're coming off of the corner at 110 miles an hour. The race leader is going to be to the side of that accident pretty soon. So Dylan did a good job of diving low to get out of the way. I do agree. I think nice call by race control to clear that black flag for the commitment cone violation. And he continues on relatively without incident. But that's how quickly it can flip the switch here at Bristol. And Nathan Lyon now still in the thick of things with lap traffic. Wonder if that scared him at all. He's really close with Cattell that time, trying to put the 27th placed car a lap down. So these aren't damaged cars that are way off of the pace, but again, that margin for difference is so small here at Bristol. You're a 1/10 of a second off by this point in the run. You're getting caught by your race leaders, but the four's having an awfully hard time completing these moves down on the bottom of the racetrack.
The thing is that they're starting to get into more and more competitive race cars. The last handful of cars, our cars and drivers we've seen kind of struggle all season. You think about Logan Kress, he's not really had a great year. Timmy Hill was sort of in that early mix. Some other drivers as well that we've seen typically sort of on the bottom half and even into the bottom quarter of the standings all year. Now they're starting to get in the top half of the bracket, really. Well, I guess you could say the bracket and of drivers. And, these guys are not doing lap times much far off what your race leaders are doing. So it's going to be difficult for them to get clear, and especially with all these guys battling with lap traffic. Talk about one driver that's really struggling in race trim. Your pole sitter, the 27 of Corey Vincent, is the next car in line after the 80 of Brandon Hayes Cattell for the number 4 Nathan Lyon. So you talk about a disastrous opening stint for your pole sitter. He goes from leading this race for the opening lap or so, and now he's fighting to maintain lead lap status there in 26th.
He didn't show a lot of speed, at least in the pre-race practice, but again, qualified on a pole, so he's got the speed. But I wonder how much maybe the damage on the right-hand side of that Ford Mustang is playing into Corey Vincent's struggles, as you now see the number 4 machine at Nathan Lyon go down to the inside. And how about this? Would you guess that 77 laps into a race at Bristol without a yellow that your pole sitter is getting lapped? Nathan Lyon got him that time by the start-finish line. Now it is just a matter of actually clearing him, and there it is. The pass has been completed. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by PEAK Antifreeze, the official antifreeze of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Again tonight, the regular season finale, as we try to find out, Nathan Lyon contact! Your race leader's down and onto the apron, and he is going to hang on to it, but wow, your leader almost just got taken out.
What a hold there by the 4 of Nathan Lyon. Who was that? I believe it was Nicholas Shelton. A little bit of contact there entering the corner, and now the question is going to be, what kind of damage could that 4 car have? Because he got him right on the right front, did the 79, and if he's got any aero damage, that could be a disaster, as we saw here in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series race over the weekend, and how important the aero was. Still dealing with that 79, but the 4 Nathan Lyon there, Evan, that's 2 close calls in the last 30 or so laps. That one I wouldn't say as much on him, but he's got to be counting his lucky stars to still have that car running and not have major damage on it.
And eventually all those little pieces of contact are going to start to add up. But I will give credit to Nathan Lyon. I think if most drivers had as many close calls as he's had, he'd get a little bit spooked. But that was not the case. He went right back in there. I think almost pushed Shelton up the hill a little bit. And, it was right on his door. So he's not being shy with this lap traffic. He does have, I think, a bigger buffer now to work with than he has had. He's 1.1 seconds ahead of Clampett. But look at that. Right up on the number 28 machine to Garrett Lowe off of the corner in the Renegade's Hyper X Ford. So he's being aggressive, and I know we said that that's what you have to do at Bristol, but I mean, now that I've got some breathing room back to Logan Clampett, who's still in second, and no changes there on. Leahy fourth or third, and Tian still behind him in fourth. I'd work that gap a little bit, but I mean, it's not going to get any easier anytime soon. So the 4 machine thinking, if I just stay locked in, this is the best plan of attack, and he's just now around the number 20 machine, but the 31 again in the mix. The number 55 there as well. A lot more cars as pit lane, and a caution flag at lap number 85, just as we saw the G2 entry of Leahy hit pit road.
It's going to be Garrett Lowe, who ends up facing the wrong way. Let's see what happened to him. The 79 and Nick Shelton may be involved again. We didn't see the early parts of that, so I'm not sure if the 79 got into the back of the 28 or not. We're going to have to get another look at that, and let's see what happens this time. Through the center of the corner, the 79. Maybe a bit of a checkup there from the 15 on the 28 car into the corner, and yes, indeed, Nicholas Shelton to the back of Garrett Lowe is going to send him around, so that's 2 close incidents we've seen in that 79. And for the first time here, pit stops on the split pit lane here, and of course, Evan, we have so many cars a lap down, you're going to see basically 2 groups in terms of when they hit pit road here. Almost half the field already down a lap.
Yeah, it is going to be really confusing to see all these cars come in and out, but Nathan Lyon in well ahead of the rest of the field into the number 4 pit stall to get his service started. Again, second half of the field will pit on the back straightaway, and then of course your lapped cars have to wait an entire extra lap, but because there were so many lapped cars between Lyon and Clampett, he's in and out pit road easily ahead of the rest of the leaders.
Yeah, so no surprise there, and it seems to me, I'm not actually sure if we got the 62 of Keegan Leahy, who actually came down pit road. I'm not sure if he actually completed his stop or not. We were focusing on him, and then the spin happened, so the cameras immediately shifted over there. So the 62 of Leahy, or Evan, if he's able to get that pit stop done and over, I think he was able to somehow maintain lead lap status, but it seems to me that's not the case. He's come down pit road here, so kind of disastrous timing here for that number 62 car, choosing to come down pit road when he did. That's going to, potentially take another competitive night for him and probably steal it away after what we saw at Michigan. He's not going to be happy with the timing of that, but I'm really surprised he would come down pit road that early. I don't think the undercut here is going to work just with all the lap traffic you have out there. On new tires, it's going to be a struggle trying to find and pick your way through the traffic, even if you're a second per lap quicker.
It'll certainly shuffle things around, and I do want to try to take a look at the number 8 Chevrolet machine if we can of Michael Conti. It's still that filter time Chevrolet, but you may notice a couple of changes on that car for this evening. You can see the purple accents on that machine and also the hashtag Gina Strong on the sides. Last week, Michael's mom, Gina, lost her battle with pancreatic cancer, and obviously being one of the more successful sim racers, his mom was always his #1 supporter, and also just happened to be a big Dale Jr. fan, so obviously being drafted earlier this year by Junior Motorsports made her ecstatic and was always one of his biggest supporters. Randy, so happy to see Michael competing with us tonight, and of course on behalf of all of us, everybody at iRacing, NASCAR, and the sim racing community, keeping him and his family in our thoughts at this difficult time as he competes tonight.
Yeah, I mean, talk about such a horrible week for Michael as well. I know that he's been a huge Dale Jr. fan for a long time and eventually ended up picking a job up over at Hendrick, and now, of course, being a junior driver. Talk about a disastrous week for him last week with all the drama with Dale Jr., with the accident. That I can't think of a more stressful week to go through. So, yeah, horrible there for the driver of that number 8 car. We wish him and his family all the best as they look to recoup and go through all that.
He's been with them in New Jersey, but I believe he's back home now in North Carolina trying to return to some normalcy as much as possible because, again, he still has his objective tonight of qualifying in to these 2019 playoffs. Getting set for the race start lights now, just going to back on top of the pace car as everybody tries to get resorted out. Looks like, speaking to Conti, that he's restarting in 10th position. Randy, he was one of the drivers coming into this evening with a plus 34, so in a very healthy position. Keep the race car on track, all should be fine, but certainly a great opening round of the race now, already past 1/3 distance.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a lot different from what a lot of people expected. I think a lot of people coming into this race, knowing that this track hasn't been on the schedule in a long time, and, it's sort of a track that people often won't run. Some people not liking this short track at Bristol because it is so much different from anything else, and, sometimes in the official series races, some of the drivers with differing skill level, you may not see that, you may not see the same sort of, clean driving we're getting here as we're getting ready to go back to green.
And it's the Ford and Ethan Lyon out in control. Green flag back in the air. 91 laps down at Bristol. Very good jump out in front. Clampett tries to hang on to second, but he's going to get slammed into the outside wall. Casey Kerwin gave it to him as Clampett had to get out of the throttle in quarter two. He'll lose a ton of spots here. Hurst on through. Ray Alfala by. And number 7, Ryan Lowe. So it looked like a good restart for the 99, and that back end is totally caved in now as Kerwin goes to the inside for 5th.
Yeah, and Logan Clampett on number 99. That race car is already starting to do its best Terry Labonte cosplay. There's a lot of damage on the front of that race car, a lot of damage to the rear, and with 157 laps left in this race, that is not what you want. Maybe have to start worrying about temperatures at this point, and even just the aero on the cars. Look at that 99 at Clampett after that incident. He is falling like a stone in a pond. It's a 6 of Novak, I think, got the back of that car a little bit as Novak. Talk about playoff implications here. He gets around the 99. He's fighting with the 47 of Nick Ottinger. Both of those two drivers near the bubble spot in the top 8, so that's very relevant for those two as we're back to yellow again.
Caution flag, it is going to be behind your leaders. I see a slow number 80 car of Brandon Cattell, and that is where the issue is going to be from. Second caution flag of the night. We'll take a look back at the replay, and right there, contact off for the corner as Benjamin Nelson came up on him, but I mean, it looked like the 80 car lost some significant speed. He got out of the throttle right before that, so I don't know if he checked up and was a little bit lower off of the wall than Ben was expecting there, but Nelson tags him, and Cattell tried to lock it up, but did eventually loop it around. They were at the back of the pack, so thankfully there weren't a bunch of cars coming roaring in as he came back up and onto the racing surface, but I think that's kind of what I was expecting out of the initial start of the race, is some of the contact like that as a quick yellow puts us pacing for the second time.
Yeah, you're right. I think that 33 there, Ben Nelson, wasn't expecting Cattell to be so far off the pace through the exit of the corner. I think Brandon got a little bit tight, and that's why we saw that kind of stack up the way we did. A couple of cars opting to hit pit road here under this pit stop sequence. One of them going to be the driver that spin up near the head of the field for so long that we just saw get into issues on that restart. The 99 of Logan Clampett's on pit road. You also see Keegan Leahy choosing to come down pit road here, and actually, interestingly to me, Jarl Tien's pulled on towards pit road. That 66 G2 Esports car is clean. That car was up near the top 5. Of course, before that first caution that we got a handful of laps ago, he somehow got mixed down into the mid-pack, so things are not going great for Jarl Tien here. He's going to come down and end up taking 4 fresh tires as well. So interesting strategy call by some of these guys opting to come down pit road after what was basically a lap and a half long green flag run.
We'll see, of course, how these varying pit strategies play out when you have an 80 lap plus run. It makes the decision pretty easy. Everybody's going to come down to the pit lane and get service. The best laps of the race, save for Nathan Lyon, was a 14.8. That was the second lap of the contest. He was starting to get into the middle 16s before that first caution flag came out. So when you have that much fall off, easy decision. But if we get a trend or a little bit of a streak, if you will, Randy, of 5, 10, 15 lap runs, would you like fresh tires every single time? Absolutely. But when you're talking about a nearly 40 car field, how many cars are going to pit with you? Is it worth giving up all that track position? Obviously, Tien taking the gamble to come down and get that fresh rubber. If we only go another 5 laps before our next one, does everybody who stayed out pit, and does he then cycle back up to the race lead? This is when the waters really start to get muddied, and those crew chiefs and the spotters and everybody on team radio with all these cars, that's where they earn their buck, is trying to strategize and honestly predict, because you saw the bad timing with the G2 car on pit road for that first yellow. A lot about Bristol. I know it happens at a lot of racetracks. Some, I think your fate is more controllable than others, but especially here, you have to have a good strategy, but you also just got to be lucky sometimes on these calls.
Yeah, that's the big thing, and I think it's definitely a call you have to think about, especially like you said. I mean, the tire fall off and the drop off for the length of run that we saw here, which is, I think, about going to be average for the runs that we run all night. I mean, Nathan Lyon, his fastest lap at the start of the race was a 14.808, and then by the end of that run, they were kind of in the mid to low 16s, but remember, they were trapped in lap traffic for the bulk of that run. I don't think there's anything you're going to do if you get out there on new tires. I don't think it's going to be so easy to be able to pick your way through the traffic when you got 40 cars basically ahead of you, half of them on the top, half of them on the bottom. I don't think it's going to be a breeze working your way through the traffic. Maybe it's a call that could work out, but it's definitely a risk, and that's what we love about Bristol, baby. We're getting ready to go back to green.
101 laps going to be complete this time by. It is the 4 cars still in control. Let's see what Nathan's Lions got for him at a turn 4. Green flag back in the air. And a decent start. A little bit of tire spin for Hurst on the outside. Here comes the 21 of Alfala to the bottom of the racetrack. Side by side for second. Outside. Better place to be, though. Hurst takes the spot. And a 7 Ryan Lowe wants to follow him.
So now we watch, how are people going to be able to get up to that upper groove of the racetrack that we know is so strong? The 4 Nathan Lyon, though, opting to run the bottom. But remember, he can turn in from the top side of the racetrack and track all the way out to the wall. Those other drivers trapped on the bottom, they don't have that same luxury. Top 3 able to break away and get single file. Next fight is going to be between the 21 of Ray Alfala and the 14 of Casey Kerwin, and they're fighting for it. And the 14 of Kerwin has just about got the spot away from Alfala. Next is going to be the 6 of Novak, and I believe that's the 36 of Shearburn in there. So both of you Letarte cars fighting for inside of the top 5.
And Alfala finally finds a way up to the outside, but I mean, he was battling to maybe get second at all of that, and he ends up P6 after dropping on the bottom line of the racetrack. Up in front of him, couple of cars thinking low. Look at the 14 machine of Kerwin down to the bottom of the track. Most cars, including the 47 of Ottinger, taking that much higher line, but at least for the moment, they're all single file, and the first battle sees the 6 of Zach Novak fighting with the 36 of Shearburn. That's for 7th and 8th position. Busa and Mullis watching on. Again, Novak needing a good run tonight. Nick Ottinger is the car chasing him in the points. Coming into this evening, Randy, between those two cars, those were ones that we were going to be highlighting regardless. 7-point difference means it could come down to 7 spots on track. Well, Nick Ottinger has been outrunning Zach Novak all night. He's only 3 spots ahead of him at the moment, though. So right now, Novak good, but it is a razor-thin margin between those two.
And remember Jimmie Mullis as well, because they're fighting with that car coming into this race. Jimmie Mullis, 359 points, 351 for Novak, and 344 for Nick Ottinger. So only 15 points separates those 3 from being able to fight for this $100,000 championship that we have going here. And Jimmie Mullis right now a little bit further down the order in 10th. So right now your 3 main bubble spot drivers that we've really been focused on all inside of your top 10, but Mullis down the order a handful of spots from where they currently run is the 6 of Zach Novak. I think we're nearly at the situation where if they were to finish like this, which we know they won't, you might be talking about the 46 getting bumped and Ottinger and Conti both getting, Novak and Ottinger getting the bump into the championship.
It's awfully close. It's funny that 7th, 8th, and 9th in the points are all running in flip-flop order. So Ottinger is the lowest of those 3 in the points, but the highest of those 3 in the current running order. I think as of now, they would all be still in order, but certainly it has all been tightened up a little bit as this race closes in on to be halfway home in the Bristol night race. So those are just the added layers to the battles that you're watching on the racetrack and not missing anything up front. It's still Nathan Lyon in control. You're watching the 21 of Alfala fight with the number 6 machine of Novak for 6th and 7th, and Novak's putting the Acronis machine all the way up to the outside wall. The bottom has not been kind to the number 21 Ford, so he'll give this one up and tuck in line.
And he's going to be able to get up to the top side of the racetrack, but now we have a couple Ford Mustangs. They're going to have to fight the 14 of Kerwin and the 6 of Novak. Kerwin sort of with an outside shot, I think nearly coming into this race, 10th in points, 30 points on back from the 6 of Novak, but things aren't going the way he would need. He would need both Ottinger and Novak and Mullis to have problems. At least 2 of those 3 drivers, and the way it's going at the moment, 14 of Kerwin not going to be in contention in the top 8, and Novak's going to put himself in the top 5 strongly around the outside as Kerwin is going to now try to have to hold off that 21 of Ray Alfala.
Well, now if you're Nick Ottinger, there's nothing you can do versus that number 6 car with Novak being behind you. There is no win and you're in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Again, Nick's got to beat him out by 7 positions. Now, that can vary a little bit higher or lower based on bonus points, but if Zach Novak finishes P5, that almost takes the 47's chances away. Nick Ottinger could win the race. He still want to make up 7 points unless, of course, he gets multiple bonus points for a lap led, possibly the most laps led. So the 6 controls his own fate, and now he's going to go to the inside and try to put it right to him, trying to make it side by side, can't establish the spot. And here we go. How about this? The car on the cut line and the car below it, they're fighting for position number 4.
Novak's going to really pressure the 47 here on that bottom side of the racetrack. Ottinger not having nearly as much speed on the entry to the corner as the 6 of Novak, but he's going to transfer to that bottom line this time. Let's see, does that help him out a little bit? Seems to equalize the pace as he works down the back straightaway and in towards 3 and 4, but now they're going to flip-flop. Novak's going to go to the upper groove on the racetrack. He's going to try to get a run and take a peek into the bottom in 1 and 2. They flip-flop again, so both drivers really searching for grip and speed, as I think this racetrack is starting to rubber in, Evan, and people are really fishing, trying to find where their car is working the best at this phase of the race as we approach halfway. Only 3 laps from it as we cross the stripe.
I mean, even on these onboard shots, you can see just how dark the racing surface is. We didn't take the iTire dragon out there and put some grip down. I mean, that's this racetrack getting worn in from start to finish. Of course, it is a night race, so it does keep track temps down with iRacing's dynamic track model. If you're racing out with the sun beat down on the racetrack, we can see track temps over 120 degrees. It's still hot, though, with all these cars around here. 105 degrees trackside compared to 88 degrees ambient, but certainly racing under the lights does give you a little bit more grip and slightly cooler track temps in the service, and maybe that gives these drivers more options as you look off at the back of Ottinger and see the 6 car still hunting him down. And this is allowing the top 3 to pull away a little bit as 4th out of back continues to fight. Lyon, Hurst, Lowe still 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
And I'm loving watching that 47 of Ottinger just being completely confident, running that thing right up against the outside wall. We're not seeing very many other cars run that line. You see the 6 of Zach Novak. He's going to get a run, not quite be able to get there, though. The 47 just has so much momentum. It's almost like watching a dirt track race, Evan, and it's similar to what we saw last night in the World of Outlaws Morton Buildings race. That top groove just looks so good in the run you can get off the corner that the 6 of Novak, he just can't get the run he needs to get clear on corner entry. He pulls nearly fully alongside on the entry to the corner, but Ottinger just about 3, 4, 5 mile an hour quicker coming off the corner. That's translating to nearly 10 at the end of the straightaway and giving that 47 car such a huge advantage at the moment. Talked about what you might need to do and what the strengths of being able to run each line strongly and confidently is going to open up for you, and we're seeing it opened up the 47 being able to defend that 4th spot out there on the racetrack as the 4 of Nathan Lyon probably going to be getting to lap traffic soon. The 31 of Logan Kress only about 3/4 of a straightaway out in front of him.
And Lyon's still the better car, but a half to a full 1/10 of a second better per lap than everybody else. So he's opened up about a 1.5 seconds nearly atop of Taylor Hurst and Ryan Lowe. They're still pretty close together for 2nd and 3rd, but your top 3 again have really spaced out. Nathan Lyon is checking out at the front of the field. So this battle for 4th, I don't want to say it's the only battle because if you got a couple of cars in line and that's a fight, but look at the 6 car finally to the outside line. Novak had tried the bottom time and time again, and instead he'll take the preferred line away, and look how much easier that was as Novak goes to 4th.
Now Ottinger going to have to deal with the 14 of Casey Kerwin, the 21 of Ray Alfala, not very far off the back either. So now one has to question what kind of speed does that 47 have? The 14 of Kerwin. The whole time that fight was happening, he was watching it through the windshield. So he's seen what that number 6 of Zach Novak had to do to get around the 47 of Ottinger. And you see he's already going to the bottom, trying to pressure Nick and maybe force another mistake out of him and try to find some way to maybe open up that top line. But you see again, it's almost picture perfect. The 47 of Ottinger holding off a Ford Mustang from the top side of the racetrack. Kerwin now going to have to try to figure out how to get that upper line open for himself as the 47 runs the middle, and Kerwin sort of puts it about a lane up from the bottom of the racetrack. Going to not get the run he needs, but closing in definitely. There is a bit of a stack up behind these guys. Shearburn and Busa not far off the back of this trio of Ottinger, Kerwin, and Alfala. So this is nearly a 5-car scrap off for the 5th position.
And it's all because that battle went on. The caution flag now. Lap 136 will slow it down again. And I believe it's the 42 of Dylan Duvall slow on the front straightaway. It is. And our 3rd yellow of the night comes at lap 135. The replay will show that's the 2 cars squeezed it up to the outside wall. Kane Cook really pushed it high on corner exit. He tagged the 42 machine, and Duvall's the one who looped it around. Pretty lazy spin on the front straightaway. Got it back straight in pretty quickly, but it is a yellow flag. It passed halfway. We check him up again.
Yeah, I think the 42 is probably pretty frustrated with the 2 of Kane Cook right there. Kane either blew the corner or he was kind of trying to slide job the 42, one of the two, but he was nowhere near clear and just clipped that 42 enough to sort of send him around, and that's going to bring us back down towards yellow flag conditions. And everyone coming down pit road this time, Evan, no shock there, because you can make it to the end of the race from here on the strategy call. So this is going to be interesting to see who can maybe pick up some spots on this caution period. Maybe the most important yellow of the night, as it looks like the 4 and Nathan Lyon's going to win the race off of pit road.
Not even close, because again, he had such a gap onto the pit lane. Hurst off of pit road in second position. Then the 7 Ryan Lowe, and of course the running order is going to be completely shuffled up. You can see it break dancing at the top of the screen there. That's because, again, everybody in the back half of the field technically passed your race leaders to get to the back pit road. It'll all update the next time by, and what we'll do actually as the scoring updates is use this opportunity under the caution flag to gotta hit the reset button and take a look top to bottom at our iRacing midway race break. Nick Shelton is currently being shown as your race leader. He has not yet come to pit road, but expect the number 79 machine to come down at some point with some damage, but you never know. But at least at the moment, Shelton scored as your race leader. Nathan Lyon is second position. He is the first car off of the pit lane, and again has been the one that has been leading for the better part of this. Taylor Hurst runs in third right now. Ryan Lowe is fourth, and Zach Novak rounds out your top 5. Malik Ray is back down to the pit lane after being scored in 6th position, so that'll bump Casey Kerwin on up a spot. Ray Alfala, Nick Ottinger, Matt Busa, and Jimmie Mullis ran to your top 10.
Yep, so Shelton's going to hit pit road. This is going to shake up everything. Michael Connie will be in the 11th spot. Blake Reynolds in 12th. Michael Guest 13th. Chris Shearburn in 14th. Brad Davies in 15th. Keegan Leahy 16th. 17th is going to be Christian Challoner. 18th is going to be Ashton Crowder with Jarl Tien, Bobby Zielinski, and Jake Nichols rounding out your top 20s. I think another car may have hit pit road. It's definitely confusing the live timing in all of us.
Yeah, Timmy Hill 21st, Phil Diaz 22nd, Dylan Duvall 23rd, Garrett Lowe 24th, and Logan Clampett through the top 25. Brandon Cattell's 26th. Now we find Malik Ray, who was top 10, but again pitted, dropping down now to actually 27th. Nick Shelton's 28th, Kane Cook in 29th, and Brian Schoenberg in 30th. There's 2 more cars on the lead lap. It includes Eric J. Smith 31st, and Benjamin Nelson in 32nd. Lap down cars, Corey Vincent, Adam Benefiel, and Casey Tucker. 2 laps down for Logan Kress, Michael Guerrilla, and Cody Bias. But most importantly, all 38 cars who started this race are still on the lead lap. That's but a look at your iRacing midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. Get you part of the action by entering promo code PR-eNASCAR 2019, and you can get your first 3 months as a new iRacing member for just $10. Pace car back down and in. Nathan Lyon off and away on the inside, and what a start behind for Ryan Lowe. The 7 car, step for step, follows him through into second spot.
First time we've seen that that driver in the second line on the inside be able to be that aggressive. This might open up a fantastic door as well with the 6 of Zach Novak, because he's going to lock the 14 of Kerwin down to the bottom. He might be able to get himself inside of the top 4, and the 21 of Alfala looking to follow suit as well.
So everybody trying to work top 3 on the bottom. Next 2 on the outside line, as you mentioned, for the 6 of Novak and a 21 of Alfala, who gets up and in front of the 14 of Kerwin. Split decision there on the back, whether you want to be inside or outside. But you got to look back to the number 30 to see a fight. That's Blake Reynolds, started 23rd. He's had a very good night in the beneath entry, trying to get around Conti on the bottom of the racetrack. Not going to happen quite this time.
But we're going to go right back to yellow, though, here. So let's see what's causing this one. Car going to be around somewhere on the racetrack.
Oh, couple of them.
19, yeah, and the 80 involved as well, and heavy damage on that 80.
The 80 was stopped at the racetrack. The 19 is going to keep rolling. Let's watch the replay here. That's Cattell up on the outside line. It actually is in front of him with the 19 car who lost it. So that was Casey Tucker, who got really sideways off of the corner, ended up snapping that car around. And Cattell, as you mentioned, got all the damage. Kind of the bystander and all of that was just behind him and had absolutely no way to get around it.
Yeah, unfortunate for him. It's one of the things that happens sometimes on these half-mile racetracks when you get a stack up right in front of you. As fast as this place is, there's sometimes not much you can really do about that. So whole field going to probably reset here. I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe see a couple cars from the back maybe come down pit road and maybe just get new tires, perhaps, especially those cars, Evans. You know, those last handful of cars you talked about staying on the lead lap, those drivers actually took the wave around. So the likes of, I believe, Kane Cook, Schoenberg, Eric Smith, I know Ben Nelson was in that group. I think maybe a couple others as well. Those drivers that were able to, that stayed out last time to get back on the lead lap, basically a freebie here for them. They're going to essentially be able to get out there and be on the same sets of tires on the rest of the field. So they're going to be more than happy with that.
Yeah, as I mentioned, 31 cars on the lead lap. I meant to say that all the cars that started this race are still in the race, but they're only within 1 or 2 laps down, so that is quite impressive for being past halfway here at Bristol. So certainly a lot of drivers have been worse for wear. I mean, I saw Michael Conti battling up inside of the top 10. The entire back end of that car was pretty much ripped off. You can see them as they all go by. I don't think there's any car that's 100% clean. It's just all relative at Bristol. And under this yellow, Randy, of course, as mentioned, you want to talk about damage. How about Darlington? Next race up, the start of the playoffs next Tuesday, August the 27th. As always, you can catch that one right here on the iRacing Sports Network. It's a 9 o'clock Eastern Time start. What a way that will go, as typically we're used to having a week off in between weeks. We go right for the regular season finale to the start of the playoffs without interruption, funding for over $110,000 in prizes. Again, the playoffs next week at Darlington. Going to be a lot of fun, but not to overlook the task at hand. Still 100 laps by the time we go back green tonight.
Yeah, I think you're right, and what a like quick turnaround, and two of the most difficult tracks I think on the schedule. You go Bristol immediately into Darlington. It's not like you get an easy kind of back-to-back weeks with a couple of maybe 1.5 mile racetracks or maybe 1.5 mile and a 2 mile racetrack that, you know, maybe the package might transition nicely. You go to the fastest, shortest racetrack that we have for the most part, and then you go to Darlington, and of course only a week for these guys, Evan, maybe to throw some throwback schemes together for what Darlington represents and what they've turned that race into in real life as well. We saw that mimicked last year. Would love to see it mimicked again, as I believe we should be getting the 1 to go signal here this time across start finish, and indeed we'll be green next time by.
Well, they call it Thunder Valley for a reason, and these race cars roar as they rip around as we get set for restart. That'll make the math nice and easy on us. 150 laps down and 100 laps to go in the Bristol night race. So as Nathan Lyon gets set to control a third straight restart with Ryan Lowney outside, Taylor Hurst, Zach Novak, and Ray follow your top 5. We are going to go silent for this one and give you some Race Spot TV fan immersion as we listen to this restart. The 4 car in control as we come at a turn 4. Reynolds off for the restart there for the 7, Ryan Lowe, who maintains second place in the running order. Zach Novak has been hounding him, and well, the 7 bobbled a few laps back. The 6 car got right on him, and now the 6 is sideways. Novak gets a little bit too high up in the corner. And how about Casey Kerwin? So the 14 going to try to jump on him. It'll be difficult to make the inside work, but it is a gamble for the PEAK iRacing Ford. Because watch that 5 as well. Randy Busa wants to get into the mix, but he's also sideways. So everybody's struggling to keep these cars underneath them here. Off for the restart, giving it 110%.
And Novak sideways through the corner once again, that time through 1 and 2. So maybe fighting that race car a little bit, and this might actually give a slight advantage to the likes of Casey Kerwin and Matt Busa and maybe even Ray following in line, because if you're that 6 and Novak here, Evan, you're thinking about this championship. You're not necessarily worried about this race as much as long as you can stay ahead of the likes of Nick Ottinger and Jimmie Mullis. So if I'm Casey Kerwin, maybe I show a little bit of a risky nose to that number 6 and Novak, knowing that he's likely to maybe jump out of the way and let me through, because he's got bigger things on his mind. Whereas if you're the 14 of Kerwin, the 5 of Busa, you're pretty much just trying to get as good of a finish as you can here tonight and move your way, maybe even pick up a win. As the 5 of Busa looks to the inside of the 14 of Kerwin, not quite going to get there though.
He's trying, and again, has had a very good night. Again, a lot of these drivers started outside of the top 10 and have worked their way into it. In fact, only 3 cars running top 10 now started there. That includes 4th place starter Nathan Lyon, who's currently leading, 7th place starter Casey Kerwin, who's 4th, and your P6 starter Taylor Hurst, who is in 8th. Everybody else picking up about 5 to 10 spots, but another yellow and a 163 will slow him down. It is a big mess. Michael Guerrilla is one of the cars involved in this one, but it looks like it started in front of him, even maybe with a 27, and the 79 is where all the incident comes from, as that was Nick Shelton with problems.
We saw the 79 of Shelton involved with some drama earlier, so I'm getting to the 4 of Nathan Lyon, but this time the 33 of Ben Nelson sort of put the car about a lane down the racetrack. I think he was scared of the 51 of Eric J. Smith, and Nick Shelton, I think, a bit of just an unfortunate bystander that time. Not much he can really do. Not expecting the 33 to come down like that, but that causes a pretty big pile up regardless, and easily the biggest incident we've seen of the night. And like we said, that's just sometimes what Bristol causes. We even got a car, I think, that got in that incident 2 separate times as that wreck was happening with all the congestion here today. So big drama here inside of 100 laps to go.
I know you mentioned Smith was involved in that one. He was really close to, but he actually survives. But his Jim Beaver Esports teammate Michael Guerrilla wasn't so fortunate, and he's actually collected in the incident. Kind of a split call, though, on pit lane this time, with the 4 Nathan Lyon deciding to stay out. A handful of other drivers actually opting to come down and get some service. So, again, shorter run. Not shocked that the 4 machine would rather stay out in front, but it could be interesting how all the numbers line up later on, because, again, you are good on fuel to the end from this point. But with the yellows, if you're going to continue to get some through the end, expect more trips down to the pit lane for tires. So it's really hit or miss.
And things just really shook up. We just had a big group of cars from that lead group come down pit road on that front straightaway, and we're seeing the same thing echoed here on the back straightaway. So it's going to be the 4 of Nathan Lyon and the 7 of Ryan Lowe. Those 2 for sure are staying out. Might have a couple of other cars doing so as well. I think I see Chris Shearburn opting to make the same call here, and I don't know. I don't think these guys have run enough, Evan, for these tires to really be so bad that you have to come down pit road. Only about 23 some odd laps on the tires. We saw something in the realm of a 1.5 seconds after about 60 laps, 70 laps. Remember what we got from that opening run. And the racetrack is slowly cooling itself down, although definitely putting some more and more rubber on the racetrack, maybe making things difficult as well. So regardless, we're going to get some interesting things happening with some on old tires, some on new tires. Is that going to cause maybe a stack up? We've already seen issues with congestion, and that's definitely another way to get it.
Yeah, if you get green flag laps, the tires probably will help, and you look like a genius. You get another quick caution flag, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. But yeah, you mentioned track temps down 10 degrees under caution flag conditions, so that'll be something that goes up and down over the course of this evening. But a majority of our top 10 stay intact. But certainly everybody, maybe from there on back, decided to come down to the pit lane and take a gamble, try to find a little bit extra as this race gets deeper and deeper into the evening. This portion as well of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Blue Def Diesel Exhaust Fluid, certified pure #1 diesel exhaust fluid. as we see Lion get set to control another restart. The 4 does have a pretty significant amount of damage. Even the left-hand side of that machine pretty torn up. I know I said that not anybody is going to have a completely presto race car, but we'll see maybe if that as well decides or hinders on some of the decisions to come down to the pit lane or not, because of course you come in, get some of the race car fixed up while you're taking your 4 tires and fuel. This restart comes at 168, and it is another picture-perfect start for the 4 car. Lion back out in control, and Lowe's going to hang on to second.
Watch that fight from the second row between Shearburn and Alfala. Alfala was the first one on new tires. Shearburn rolled through pit road, but did not stop in the box. Look at that 36, struggling down there on the bottom, on top of that bottom line, not being where you want to be, but the 21 wants to be down there. He gets up the inside of the 7 of Ryan Lowe, can't make it stick, and now he's going to be possibly a victim of the bottom line freight train that we've seen here. Look at the 14 of Kerwin trying to set it up 3 wide down the straightaway.
You look to the outside of the stem, and now he'll go to the inside. There's the 3 wide as it's Kerwin through the middle. He'll go drag racing to turn 3, trying to take second away from Ryan Lowe, and he's got it. So what a drive by Casey Kerwin. The 14 car has been on it as he was down pit road under caution. He'll look for the race lead now, trying to go to the bottom of line. He'll tuck back up in line, set him up, and I think he's got a real good shot at it. Here he comes to the inside of turn 1. Casey Kerwin looking for the race lead the first time tonight. Nose to nose here, but I think he may get him in 3 and 4.
I was expecting a much bigger buffer, I think, for your top couple cars. I wasn't expecting 36 of the 38 cars to come down pit road. Only 3 of them, on the old tires, and that's going to allow Kerwin to take that race lead. Now the fight's going to be on still between the 7 and the 21, as the 14 of Kerwin saw him have a career best finish of second at Pocono. Now he leads this race with 75 to go, knowing we can get to the end of this race to the end.
Kerwin tries to run out in front and enjoy that clean air. The driver for Clint Boyer Racing takes it away from Lion. Still funny to 4th position on pack as that 6 at Novak duking it out with a 7 to Ryan Lowe. The 7 car can't make the inside work, and Lowe's been really teamed up on off for the restart here. You talk about the large majority of the cars who decided to come down to the pit lane and take tires under the yellow. Well, the 7 wasn't one of them, and you can see him struggling. The 5 of Busa goes on by. How about the 88 machine of Brad Davies, the other Junior Motorsports entry, with teammate Conti not that far behind him. Davies takes the spot away as well. It is now at a race high position in 6th.
And look at the fight for second. The 4 of Nathan Lyon on old tires, bottling up the rest of the field. The 6 of Novak and the 21 of Alfala trying to split him. Might be a little bit of a replay of Zonta and Spa when Schumacher and Hakkinen made the move stick, but the 4 of Lyon holding strong on that upper groove. From the 21, maybe make the move down on the inside. The 6 of Novak potentially boxed in, but Ray can't just quite get the run he needs, so it's still the 6 and the 21 that fight wheel to wheel.
And the 21 now finds himself pinned down to the inside because Boos is here also. It really was Alfala versus Novak side by side when they caught the 4. Look at the 6 car now. Drives it in really hard on the inside. He gets in front of the 21 alongside the 4. And nose to nose we go for second position. Every lap that this fight continues allows Casey Kerwin to get 0.3 of a second ahead. And a 6 machine finally gets the job done. Breaks through and has some gap. But I wonder how much the 4 car is going to struggle. It's not going to get any better for him.
That's going to be the big question here. I think if he had had a 10 to 15 car buffer, the 4 of Nathan Lyon would have been in a great situation, but that's just sort of sometimes the things and the incidents that crop up at Bristol's. You once the entire field makes that decision to come down pit road, not much you can do about it. Now the 4 just has to hang on and maybe hope he can catch a yellow and play some strategy. The 21 of Alfala looks to the bottom. The 5 of Busa thinking about making it 3 wide. He won't do so. Won't quite get that opening he needs to make that move stick as Alfala right up on the bottom near the apron of that racetrack, nearly clear the 4 of Nathan Lyon. Is up the inside once again, a little bit loose, I think, fighting as Ray Alfala, but look at the traction off the corner. He's clear and comfortably into 3rd.
And just a miles the difference as he's able to get back into the gas off the corner. And once these cars are getting by the 4 of Lyon, they're checking out. Novak is already a 2nd ahead of this group, not catching to Kerwin, but he's just pulled away from where the 4 car is. So if I'm lying, I want this run to go no more than another 10 to 15 laps, and I'm going to get down to the pit lane, and this may be a cautionary tale that may scare some drivers away from staying out if we have more yellows left in this race with less than 70 laps to go. Busa through on by. Davies, who had been making moves on the outside off for the restart, he'll now go to the inside of the Dale Jr. Foundation Chevy. Next up as well, he's got that 47 of Ottinger following him. Don't forget, again, how critical some of these cars are in the championship picture.
And actually, talking about that 47 here, Evan, I mean, we talked about the fact that Ottinger is in some ways racing the 6 of Zach Novak. Remember, the 46 of Mullis, in terms of the points, not that far ahead of either of them. And right now, Jimmie Mullis finds his way out there in 15th. So right now, if you're Nick Ottinger, even though you know the 6 of Novak's ahead of you, you can't give up, and you have to keep fighting here, knowing that that 46 of Mullis is buried right now in the mid-pack of the field. You're not completely out of this. You can potentially open yourself up another window if Mullis continues to run poorly. But man, this fight for the race lead has strung itself out more than we've seen all night long. A second and a half first to second, and a second and a half second to third because of the 4 of Alliance, fighting on old tires. The 14 of Kerwin and the 6 of Novak given a huge gift from this restart.
Yeah, everybody in front of him strung out single file, but behind, I think we're tighter. Actually, for the restart, the 7 of Guest, he'll make the pass in the Facet-All entry. So next up, the 30 car of Reynolds. This is going to continue, and if you're the 4, you can't do anything about it. You can't just push the car harder to make up the difference on the tires. You're already giving it 100%. He has been the best car, I think, all along tonight, but the decision to stay out appears at this moment to have not been the correct one, and he is now just dropping it back. He just can hold this line on the outside and make it as difficult as possible for them to get it done, as the Team Dillady sports car of Reynolds is the next to clear. Conti there, and of the steady MD entry, Ashton Crowder thought about forcing some 3 wide. He'll dive to the inside in the Burton Clear Mini Sports entry.
Yeah, we saw the 99 of Clampett from that stable running up near the front of the field and putting on a great show. Now the 77 of Ashton Crowder after the 99 of Logan getting caught up, and really that car damaged. He just sort of stuck down there trying to work on this 4 Nathan Lyon, who has the older tires. Up the inside goes that 77 of Ashton Crowder. Just can't quite make that move stick, though. And look at that 46 of Mullis in the background. He's trying to pick up some spots. A little bit of a wiggle for Ashton Crowder will prevent him from getting clear, so they're going to stay side by side just a little bit at the head of the field. A couple of the seasoned veterans in this series were fighting, and Matt Busa took 3rd away from Ray Alfala.
And made it pretty easily once he caught up to him. So Busa to 3rd. Alfala trips down to 4th position. And with Davies closing in, the 21 machine may still be in a spot that may lose a couple of spots from this point down. But don't look now. I know the laps are starting to wind down. We're not far from just 50 laps to go. But Zach Novak in 2nd. He's starting to reel in Casey Kerwin. That gap between 1st and 2nd had been at times about 1.6, 1.7 seconds. It is now down to just 9/10. You can see the gap there in the middle at the bottom of the screen. Zach Novak is coming, and with 51 to go this time, dare I say, I think he has time.
He definitely has time to get there. He's well within the window, but we saw this with the opening stint of this race, and we haven't seen it since. Lapped traffic is about to become relevant here for Casey Kerwin as he closes in on the 15 of Michael Griglia, who has heavy damage. That's going to be the first one to get there. Next, you'll have Logan Crest, Nicholas Shelton not long after, and then it's basically about 3 to 4 car lengths before you get to each next lap car, before you eventually get to the big gaggle that we saw earlier on. So for the 6 of Novak, he doesn't only have to maintain this pace in clear air, which we know he can currently is able to do, is actually it's sort of stabilized a little bit, and Kerwin has been able to equalize the pace, but can he have that speed advantage going through the lap traffic? That's going to be the challenge for the 6 of Novak.
We'll see how much of a factor that does play. I know it's been a relatively short green flag run, so the lap traffic hasn't been an issue. It is only going to get more and more problematic as this race continues to run down, but it is those top 2. They're more than 3 seconds ahead of everybody else. That's Busa still 3rd, Alfala 4th, and Davies continues to lurk, but The 4 and Nathan Lyon still is kind of the exciting race car to watch just because of all the battling that's going on around him. Mullis has since passed. Christian Challender's gotten around the 2 car. Also, Kane Cook trying to make a move from 15th position. So, what this is doing is it's taking guys so long to get around this battle that they're so strung out in front of them that it's keeping most of the fighting here outside of the top 10.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, in some ways, it's almost a guilty pleasure, and you have to feel bad knowing that it's so entertaining watching this 4 of Nathan Lyon, who's on the wrong strategy call because he's going to be where all the fighting is going to be as he slowly trickles through the field. We've seen that when he was up in the top 5. Now he's fallen down the 17th and fighting with the likes of Jarl T and Malik Ray out there on the racetrack. So the 4 of Nathan Lyon bottling 2 more cars up behind him is slowly trying to hold on here. The 62 of Keegan Leahy. Remember, our car that looked so strong early in this race, leading as well at one point, is trying to work up the inside of the 4 Nathan Lyon. So these two fought earlier on in the opening 10 or 20 laps, and they're going to fight again here with 42 to go.
It'll continue. Funny how that happens. You tend to run into drivers from earlier in the race, and I know it's under different circumstances, but it is the Nathan Lyon Keegan Leahy battle. The Nani Malik Ray, who's had a little bit of a rough go in the Sunoco Race Fuels entry for Richmond Raceway Esports, but he's now running the best he's been all night after starting 36th. He's passed nearly half the field running right now in 19th position, so a big up to the 90 car for fighting through this one, and he's going to have to wait for the 62 and the 4 to decide what they want to do, as this battle's keeping him pinned behind so close to actually clearing that time for Leahy. And he'll try it again on the 4. Again, Lyon's not making it easy on these cars. No reason for him to. But I think the 62's got him this time, and he will. So move Leahy now solidly up into 17th position. But the laps are fast. 40 laps to go at Bristol. Randy, that's not much more than if it stays green. 10 minutes or so of actually on-track time. So really getting down into the thick of things now.
Yeah, it's really not. I mean, it sounds like a long time, and we talk about 40 laps in most of the racetracks we go to. That's a stint, as that number 90 of Richmond Raceway Esports car, Malik Ray, tries to get onto the back of the 4 of Nathan Lyon, just can't quite get there. Going to look to the inside with the slightly fresher tires. Can he maybe get the run he needs this time? Answer is going to be no. And I think in some ways for the 4 of Nathan Lyon here, Evan, he's starting to get to these race cars that have a little bit more damage and haven't had the sort of speed all night that the 4 of Nathan Lyon has had. So he's able to sort of plateau and at least stabilize here. I think it's unlikely we're going to see him drop much further than this, but don't say that to the 55 of Brian Schoenberg. He wants to pick up this spot as well.
In a battle for 6th position, also further closer to the front of the field is a fun one. The 17 of Michael Guest fighting with Nick Ottinger. The Guest entry down low, actually trying to win out in this exchange, and he'll do so. So the 47 of Ottinger now the one that is struggling to maybe a little bit later on this long run. So just goes to show you, battles top to bottom. Any one of them could go sideways at any moment. I mean, had contact a couple of laps ago. The 17 and the 74 nearly got into each other. It's close quarters action at Bristol, and if I'm Casey Kerwin, I've stabilized a little bit in the race lead. Novak had been getting, a 10th every few laps, and he's kind of slowed that rate down. Kerwin holding strong at 0.8 of a second. If I'm him, I want this one to go through to the end.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think even though Novak maybe has a slightly quicker car right now, I have a feeling that Kerwin has enough to sort of hold on. It's gone from a 10th every single lap to maybe a couple few hundreds every single lap, and I think the 14 of Kerwin is going to be more than happy with that. And of course, with all the lap traffic they're coming up on, as long as Kerwin can sort of pick them off cleanly and consistently, that's going to favor that 14 car. The 79 of Nicholas Shelton tags the wall ahead of your race leaders, so hopefully maybe not issues here for the 14 of Kerwin. Is actually the 79 little loose up top, so the 14 maybe seeing a car that's struggling out the windshield and probably hoping and praying he can get by him cleanly and efficiently here.
This final portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bed Liner. The tough comes easy in this regular season finale, and there's a big crash in front of the race leaders. Casey Kerwin had to go to the apron to get around it, and Zach Novak is going to go to the race lead. The 6 car just drives right on by as 3 cars were up against the outside wall. The 14 of Kerwin went to the apron to avoid it. Zach Novak drove right by him and is now leading at lap 222.
Somehow we stay green through all of that. Not sure what caused the 20 there of Jake Nichols to get loose and cause that incident, but man, talk about a shakeup at the head of the field. You have to feel bad for the 14 of Kerwin, but he's going to start applying the pressure immediately. It's only 0.4 of a second back now, the gap between your top two. So Kerwin has to go to work to try to bring that gap back down and maybe pick up the race lead again.
I don't think he's going to be able to get there. And now problems with the 88 car. That's the 88 slow of Brad Davies. Again, no caution. We stay green. There's more slow cars at a racetrack, but in none of these incidents has a car spun around. You saw the 88 spinning on the apron. The incident before that, Randy, those three cars that were into each other never actually went around. They were all up against the outside wall. I have to think Kerwin thought there was going to be a yellow, which is why he took it so easy, but I don't think he's going to be able to get Novak. Again, I still think Novak was a little bit better, and the gap is what was going to help the 14. Now he's going to have to chase the 6 car down with less than 25 laps to go. And how about Zach Novak? Let's talk again about the playoff picture coming into tonight. Zach Novak was 8th in the final playoff position, only 7 points ahead of Nick Ottinger. What a walk-off it would be for Novak to clinch his playoff spot with the win here tonight, ensuring that he can start racing for a championship when we go to Darlington next week. So then you'd have to think, well, what's happening with Jimmie Mullis and Nick Ottinger? Well, Ottinger's in 8th position, and Mullis, who was struggling, Randy, is up to P11. So Mullis in, Novak in, Ottinger out, I believe, is how they would run into the playoffs if it were to finish right now.
I think you're right with that, but I don't think this race is over. Casey Kerwin with the lap traffic, able to get within 0.3. The 6 of Novak really struggled getting around Nicholas Shelton, and Shelton still making it difficult on the 14 of Kerwin as well. But Novak now struggling with the 83 of Adam Benefield. So the gap is coming down as we approach 20 laps to go. So even if the 6 maybe has a slight pace advantage, I think the 14 isn't quite out of it just yet. It stretches back out to about 0.4 of a second here in favor of the 6 of Novak. But the 14 of Kerwin still definitely there, as lap traffic still very much a part of this.
Well, you saw it this weekend in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. Lead car trying to get by lapped cars late, and arguably could have been the difference maker. Zach Novak's got to do the same thing. A nice piece of driving there by Garrett Lowe to just get out of the way and let your race leaders go on by. Casey Kerwin within 2.5 car lengths with 18 laps to go at Bristol. The next lapped traffic they would catch would be Casey Tucker, but honestly, they do have a significant buffer as the 14 now closes in. He'll look to the inside for the race lead. Novak gonna ring it around the outside wall, hanging on for now. But Kerwin's so close he can taste it.
Oh, the 6 of Novak, he gets the outside wall in the center of the corner. He's going to be able to hold on. So maybe the pressure from the 14 of Kerwin going to pressure the 6 of Novak into a mistake. Right up against the wall again is the number 6 of Zach Novak, trying to get his way into the top 8. And the 14 of Kerwin is there. 16 laps to go. Next time across the stripe. And the 14 of Kerwin going to look to the inside, try to pressure the 6 of Novak when they have some clean track nearly side by side. Down the back straightaway, and the 6 of Novak holds on for now as Casey Tucker is going to be thrust right into the middle of this lead battle in not long.
Novak, a 5-time winner in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Casey Kerwin looking for win number 1 on the inside again, side by side for the race lead. He can get there in the center, but it is the run exit of the quarter for the car on the outside that is going to be what is so hard to complete the pass. Novak carries the speed off of 2 and off of 4 so much better, and they are starting to catch up to those lapped cars. There's only Casey Tucker, then a little bit more gap, and then a whole school of cars as Novak's into the outside wall again, trying to ring it around the outside. Kerwin continuing to pound it on the inside. Now he'll follow him up top.
It's not always the fastest car at Bristol that wins the race. Sometimes it's who wants it more. Does maybe the chrome horn come into effect for the 14 of Kerwin? They've not touched yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see the 14 of Kerwin give him a shot. Here comes the lap traffic of Casey Tucker. Going to start bottling up these top 2, and what is Casey Tucker going to do dealing with these top 2 cars? 10 laps to go. Coming up in the next couple trips around the racetrack, Casey Kerwin falls back into line as Tucker's going to run the top side of the racetrack, which is where everyone wants to be.
The 19 has been holding the outside. Now the 14 looks low. Is the 6 car going to get pinched on the outside line? He may have to deviate from his preferred line. Yes, he will. He'll go down to the inside. So Novak gets around the lap traffic and now puts the car in between he and Kerwin. Kerwin stays low. He's been down here for the better part of the run. Also gets on by without incident, but there are lapped cars ahead. Smith, Duval, just to name a few, and they're all running in the line that Zach Novak wants. He's so loose, the 6 car, giving it everything he has. That time by, it was just 8 more laps to go at Bristol, and Kerwin continues to knock on the door. Does he resort to using the bumper as again he peaks low?
14 of Kerwin may have to move him here as they close in on the lap traffic of Eric J. Smith. And of course you have Dylan Duval not far ahead of him as well. So it's going to quickly stack up here in the fight for the checkered flag. The 14 of Kerwin at the bottom, the 6 of Novak into the wall again as they come off the corner. And look at the run for Novak. Lap traffic going to get out of the way. First one is going to be, I believe that was Eric J. Smith who dives out of the way. Is Dylan Duval going to be as kind to these top 2 as in towards 3 and 4? The 14 of Kerwin to the bottom. Novak checked up behind the lap traffic as we're coming to 5 laps to go, but Kerwin just can't quite get the run off the corner. Can he get the car to rotate off the bottom and pick up the run? The 14 of Kerwin has the lead, coming to 4 to go.
By half a car length, it's Casey Kerwin on the inside line. 4 laps to go this time, and he's got him. Casey Kerwin to the race lead late at Bristol Motor Speedway. The 6 of Novak wanting to stay on the outside, struggled to pass Dylan Duval, who held his ground, and now it's the 6 car trying to attack again. He'll chase the bumper, the 14, 3 more laps around.
14 of Kerwin opens up a gap. The 6 of Novak has made a couple mistakes over this run and he's lost 6 or 7 or so car lengths. Little contact behind. It'll be 2 laps to go. 1 mile of racing. We saw the 14 of Casey Kerwin come so close and be so emotional, running second at Pocono. It was 3/4 of a mile to go and some lap traffic ahead of him. He's getting ready to see the white flag and pick up his first career win in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series at Bristol.
And he's opened the gap up. Zach Novak falls to half a second behind. As long as the cars in front keep it clean, he is going to be good to the end of this one. Casey Kerwin, for the first time in his eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series career, is a winner, capturing tonight the Bristol Night Race. What a win for the 14 car.
What a story for the 14 of Casey Kerwin. He's, I think, been the breakout driver this year on the iRacing service. Coming into this championship, he's looked so strong, been so much fun to watch, and he's been successful off the asphalt as well, picking up a second place finish, I believe it was, at Eldora. Been super awesome to watch in the late models, and he was great to watch in the sprint cars as well. So for Casey Kerwin, what a big run for him, and what an amazing year 2019 has been for him, and what a great stretch through the summer as well.
And you talk about this year, how about the victory for Clint Boyer Racing? First win for them in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Casey and teammate Nicholas Shelton competing this year, and obviously got the PEAK at iRacing colors on board, and well, he kept the car clean for long enough. He's got some celebrating to do. First career win at the top level of sim racing. Casey Kerwin, winner tonight at the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. And when you talk about the championship picture coming into tonight, Randy, he wasn't mathematically eliminated. He was 37 points out of the spot, still with a chance, and I don't think it's going to happen because, again, a win does not lock you in the regular season. But given those circumstances, came in here and got the job done. And what an emotional roller coaster it was for him to be leading, have the accident in front of him, to lose the race lead. Like, that would have been absolutely heartbreaking, but he had enough time to fight back, and this time gets that deserving win.
Yeah, I think that was probably the most emotional roller coaster for the 14 of Kerwin, and same for the 6 of Novak. Talk about him having the race lead, seemed like he was a quicker car, chasing down the 14, and then suddenly Casey Kerwin, a man on the mission, flips the script. He starts picking up speed, and he ends up taking that race win. What an amazing 250 laps here at Bristol, and I hope we're coming back here next year.
First time since 2011 And it did not disappoint. Let's look top to bottom at your Race Spot TV unofficial results. Casey Kerwin to victory lane for Clint Boyer Racing. Zach Novak comes home second. How about Roush Fenway for second and third, with Michael Guest running up just behind him at number 17 machine. Blake Reynolds was good all night in fourth, and Taylor Hurst, your top independent driver, who ends up P5. We'll go trackside with all of those drivers in just a little bit. Ray Alfala ends up sixth position this evening. Great result for the driver trying to just fight to stay in this series for next year. Ashton Crowder comes in late for Burton Kligerman. He'll follow up Nick Ottinger 7th. Crowder in 8th position. Matt Busa comes home P9, and Michael Conti gets that 10th and locks himself in.
I think the 46 of Jimmie Mullis will just lock himself in as well, running the 11th spot, and I believe that should see the 47 of Ottinger outside of the top 8. We will wait for confirmation, though, a little bit later on tonight. Christian Challoner in 12th. Kane Cook in 13th, Bobby Zielinski in 14th, Jarl Tien in 15th, Keegan Leahy, a car that was so strong early, just didn't have it past about the 1/3 point in the race. He ends up in 16th with Malik Ray, Ryan Lowe, Brad Davies, and Nathan Lyon rounding out your top 20. And talk about heartbreak for that number 4 car as well. One slightly off strategy call, and you go from potentially winning this race and finishing right in the middle of the field.
Yeah, probably was one of the best cars, and he ends up just beating out Chris Shearburn, who finishes 21st, Brian Schoenberg at 22nd, Logan DeClamp at 23rd, Phil Diaz 24th, and that'll be the cut line for cars that actually finish on the lead lap in this one. Dylan Duvall comes home 25th, Eric J. Smith is 26th, Casey Tucker 27th, Nick Shelton 28th, Adam Benefield 29th, and it is Timmy Hill through 30th.
Then the tail end of your field tonight is going to be Jake Nichols here in 31st, Garrett Lowe in 32nd, Ben Nelson involved in a lot of drama tonight, able to hold on, somehow only one lap down, but it will only result in 33rd. It's not often after 250 laps you see only the 33rd place car a lap down. Michael Griega in 34th, Logan Kress, Corey Vincent, your pole sitter, ends up 36th, with Cody Bias and Brandon Hayes Cattell will round out our 38 car field tonight.
Look top to bottom at your Race Spot TV full race results. Let's go trackside to Bristol Motor Speedway Victory Lane, where we can finally say Casey Kerwin, winner in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Casey, congratulations on the win. But man, they didn't make this one easy on you. I know that wouldn't have made sense for how close you guys have been in the past. This one looked like it was yours. You had the gap in front. Next thing you know, there's cars wrecking in front of you. Zach gets on by, and you had to be thinking to yourself, oh no, here we go again.
Yeah, I was freaking out whenever they started wrecking, and I got on the apron, and once I got back calm, I didn't realize that there wasn't a yellow quick enough, and I mean, he probably would have gotten by me anyway, but then I had to make the gap up a lot quicker. I had a lot bigger gap to make up. But yeah, then I didn't think we were going to get back there because he started pulling and I wasn't gaining on him. And then finally I found something back on the bottom again. And I don't know if he just got in some of the dirty air of the lap cars or what, but I was just able to get on the bottom there and just get him pinned in behind those lappers. And God, I don't know how we did it, but after coming close so many times, having good runs that just haven't gone our way, finally win for everyone, all the people that have supported me, you know, only year 2, but Houston Hamer, Dustin Lingert, my spotter B Wilkes, Clint Boyer Racing, Clint, Chip, PEAK, iRacing for sponsoring me and putting on the series. It's just, God, it feels good to finally win.
He gave a lot of TV time tonight, run it up front. It's the first time Bristol, you mentioned second year in the series, first time Bristol's been on the calendar in this series since 2011. So I know a lot of you guys have experience on this track, maybe in NIS and another league race, but certainly not in this PEAK series. So what was the preparation like coming into this one? You guys still had a mathematical chance of getting into the playoffs. All you could do was come out here and win. You did exactly that, so you did your job, but unfortunately I think the cars in front of you in the points didn't have bad enough of a night to make a difference for you. But with all of that in mind, the playoffs still being a picture, it being Bristol, last race of the regular season, how'd you prep for this one?
Yeah, we really just, Novak was the one I needed to finish bad. That was who I was battling with, but that was a great battle. But anyway, yeah, we just try to make it where we can move around lanes. And for me, if anyone watches the dirt side, knows I'm not that great at running the top. And so we found really good stuff down on the bottom there. Yes, rolling the bottom, always. And I found it there, and then actually ended up finding something on the fence. We were just able to really go wherever we needed to. And just, Alan Bowes helped us a lot this week, and he helped really dial it in for multiple lanes. So that's how we were able to work around cars, and even if we got shuffled back on restarts, we were able to get it back there, and especially there at the end with Novak, we could just really go wherever we wanted to and try and get him pinned in, and we could get it done because we were quick anywhere, so that definitely worked out.
Really cool thing about you as well, saving this first career win for this season is race winners get $500, so you walk away with that as well, $850 purse for the top 3 on a week-by-week basis. So now we transitioned into the playoffs to not being a car that is competing for this 2019 title. You got Darlington, Indy, Charlotte, Homestead coming on up. What is still left out there to learn for you guys as you sit at a pretty comfortable position to maintain your spot on the roster for next year?
Yeah, just go out and learn and try and keep executing races. You know, that's something I've struggled with, and I think over the past few weeks we got a little bit better at. But if we can consistently do that, I think we can run up front each and every week. And all the tracks at the end of the season, Darlington I'm a little iffy, but all the other tracks I feel like I'm good at and can compete for at least the top 10. So hopefully we can do that. Just keep building momentum and help all the dead zone guys dial cars in, especially for Blake Reynolds. He'll be in the playoffs. So yeah, just help the team out, dial sets in, learn as much as I can for next year, and hopefully we'll be in a position to be in the playoffs next year where it'll matter and be able to execute then.
We look forward to seeing what the future holds for you and everybody at the team there, Casey. We'll let you get out there. I know you got some celebrating to do. Is there anybody else you want to say hi to from Victory Lane?
Hi, Mom and Dad. They've been big supporters, and yeah, all the guys that I work with. Fun fact, I work on Garrett Lowe's Legend car, and you know, the team that I work for, all of them, they let me and Garrett take off the Tuesday nights during the summer and stuff, and do this. So glad back-to-back weeks. It's only fitting that we both got our first wins and made it worthwhile. So shouts to them, and yeah, just everyone that helped on the set again. It's just incredible.
I know that we appreciate your time down here post-race. Again, Casey, congratulations on the win, and well, we'll see if you can do it next week again at Darlington.
Yep, thanks, guys.
The race winner tonight from Bristol Motor Speedway, first of his career for Casey Kerwin. The other half of that super exciting battle, Randy, is Zach Novak, who's no stranger to victory lane and thought that he was going to have this one. Went from chasing down to defending late in this race. He puts the number 6 car home in second.
And that's really got what I think I have to ask you here, Zach. You'll talk me through it. You're about a second there back off of Casey. There was a point where you were reeling him in by about a tenth and a half per lap, and then it seems like you kind of stabilized. Not sure if it was a dirty error or if Casey picked up the pace, what happened. But then that incident happens out ahead of the 14, and you managed to slip by. At that point, do you think the race is pretty much yours?
Yeah. I thought he wasn't going to be able to close back in. We were just so even before that happened, but after that whole stack up happened, going into turn 1 and I got by him, I just got really loose, and I couldn't really hang on to it. I had to run the wall to keep the momentum up, and he was just really fast. I was catching him just because he was mainly running the bottom, and he was just saving his tires down there, and I was running the middle trying to catch him. So overall though, I mean, I'm happy I lost to him of all people. Casey's a really cool dude, and he really deserved that. He drove his butt off tonight.
And knowing for you coming into this race, you talk about, you know, the fact that he's such a great competitor and someone to run with. What was your mindset actually with that fight during the final 20 or so laps? You come into this race needing a strong finish, and you know, of course, here at Bristol, it's not uncommon for people to maybe use the chrome horn, give someone a shot, and move someone out of the way. If you thought that 14 of Kerwin was going to start getting over aggressive in that final 20 or 30 laps, were you always probably just going to give that win to him, knowing that you had bigger things in play, trying to fight for this championship?
That was definitely in the back of my mind. He definitely had the better car there at the end. He could roll the middle, and I couldn't even clear myself to get down to the bottom or anything. So he just kept rolling the middle, and I figured if anything, he'd maybe give me a little door or arc me out. But I know Casey's a super clean racer, but I knew he wanted that one as well, so who knows what he would have done for it. And I'm just glad that we raced clean for it. We had a good brawl, and we're in the chase, and that was the ultimate goal tonight.
7-day turnaround. You mentioned that you're in the chase, first round at Darlington coming this next Tuesday. What's going to be the stress going to with such a quick turnaround, not 2 weeks that we're typically used to working with just one, and being at, if this was maybe the most difficult oval of the season, coming to what I would say is easily the second most difficult at Darlington?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a pretty good car for Darlington. We were extremely fast at Kentucky, and we were also quick at Michigan. We've had a pretty good package for the bigger tracks these past few races, so I'm really excited for that. I think we're going to run well, and I think the stress is pretty much gone after tonight. I was extremely stressed, worried about pit road and how everything would play out, and luckily we got quite a few green flag runs, and the race went pretty smooth.
Well, Zach, congratulations on a second place finish tonight. Like you said, locking yourself into that top 8 to be able to fight for that $100,000 up for grabs total in the championship. Before we let you go, who gets it done for that number 6 Roush Fenway car?
Yeah, I just got to thank all my guys at Lockdown Racing: Taylor, Jimmie, Logan Sheets, Brennan Coppinger. Jimmie, Taylor, and I, we really worked hard on this thing. I spent a lot of time on this car, and it paid off. We had a rocket ship tonight. We almost put all three of us in the top 10, so big thanks to them. I want to give a huge shout out to Esport Racing Group and Corey Vincent, Chris Roberts, and all of them. They helped us out a lot this week. Found a little bit of speed and helped us with testing and everything beyond that, so big thanks to them. I just want to thank all the guys at Roush Fenway Racing, Acronis for being on the car. It was really cool to battle for the win there with them on the car for the first time this year. Wyndham Rewards, Oscar Mayer, Acorns Performance Plus Motor Oil Ford. Roush was really excited there, if you look on Twitter, so I'm glad we could give them a show and give the broadcast a show. That was a really fun race. Big thanks just to everybody that helps put this on.
There he was, everyone. Your second place finisher tonight, Zach Novak, tied through the regular season with the most wins with the car of Ryan Luza. Both of those drivers, you will see them in the next handful of races fighting for this championship. Well, Evan likes to let me and Tim do the heavy work on the interviews. Tim's not around, so Evan, you get to pick up the third place interview with the 17 of Michael Guest. That's a couple of those Ford Mustangs, a couple of those Roush Ford Mustangs finishing great here tonight. 2 of them in the top 3.
Yeah, we'll keep it in the family and go down with your third place finisher, the Facet-All Ford of Michael Guest, who ends up on the podium tonight. Michael, congratulations on a good result. Just tell us about this one, because the 32nd to 3rd makes you easily the hard charger for the Bristol night race, and even top 10 cars struggled to get through this one in one piece. You kept that 17 car nice and sporty all the way to the end. Looks pretty clean.
Oh yeah, that was a great race for me. It's been so long since I've had a good race. It seems like I haven't qualified in the top 30 in like 3 months. So going into this race, when I qualified 32nd, I was really nervous. But after I started rolling the bottom after a few laps, everybody just stayed up high and started wearing their tires out, trying to just get runs on each other. And eventually I was just able to pass everywhere. I would wait 20, 25 laps, and I mean, in the first run, I think I went from 32nd to 10th, so that pretty much got me the track position I needed for the race. And after that, with having just the backstretch pit stall, was about maintaining my top 10, 15, because I knew I couldn't come out better than that if there's a caution. So especially with our run to the end, I was really hoping that we had no cautions to the end and we just stayed green so I could get a top 3 or whatever it was.
And obviously, the goal for you a little bit different than teammate Zach, as you guys look to fight and stay in this series, the ultimate goal, and in a very good position to do so as we head into the playoffs. So with, your Roush teammate car in the championship, and with you in your own battle to try to maintain a top 20 spot, which, coming into tonight, you want to talk about exciting battles, was only 14 points, and I know that you're going to start to focus on that a lot more. How is the next couple of weeks going to look for you in the 17 team as far as maybe trying to compliment Zach a little bit? Are you going to be the one that's tested out strategies for him in a race, or is it going to be business as usual, your race and your races, and Zach takes care of himself?
It's pretty much towards that way. Really, before the last 2 races, I was focused on the playoffs too, but the last 2-3 races, I finished outside the top 35, wrecking myself pretty much, so So from basically here on out, I just don't want to do anything bad to Zach. I'll help him out when I can, but mainly we'll be running our own races. I'm trying to get inside or stay inside the top 20, of course.
But we look forward to seeing it. Some exciting racetracks coming up. It all starts with Darlington. No off week, so we get right back into it. Next week, August 27th, we go race it at the Lady in Black. But, I mean, I'll kind of roll all these tracks into one question for you, because Darlington, one of its own. Indianapolis, no other racetrack like it. And, of course, the Charlotte Motor Speedway, Roval are those next three. What's the outlook for you and the team for those ones?
It'll be interesting for sure. Darlington, with this dirty air that we have now, it's going to be crazy. I thought this race was, well, this race was the most intense race I've ever had in PEAK, or iRacing in general, really. So we had, I thought this was intense. I really think Darlington, the Roval, and Indy are all going to be intense with what all those tracks bring to the table.
Well, it'll be a lot of fun, and of course, everybody can catch those right here on the iRacing Esports Network. What a drive, though, tonight from Bristol, 32nd to 3rd. Michael, again, congratulations. Well showing, you and Zach, for the team coming home 2nd and 3rd, and hopefully you guys can carry this momentum through. We'll get another opportunity to chat with you before the year's done.
All right, thanks.
Third place finisher tonight from Thunder Valley. Just behind him, good result for Blake Reynolds. He was one of the drivers that was pretty much up in conversation all night long, Randy. That despite starting mid-pack. So he was fast from the get-go and gets a solid result tonight.
Blake, you really joined a huge kind of, pretty much everyone on the top 5, bulk of the top 5, starting in that mid-pack. Zach Novak 19th, Guest, who we just talked about, in 32nd, and you 23rd. How stressful was it running here at Bristol in that mid-pack? Because it seemed like often if you didn't get caught up on that upper line, you basically had nowhere to go, and it was just all about, trying to hold on the bottom and get in line when you can. How difficult was it trying to manage what line you were in, and especially when that bottom line did eventually start coming in the mid-pack, which was so crowded all night long?
Well, I think the bottom was in the whole race. It was just a matter of, really picking the right line with the momentum. It just depended on who was fast and what line. And like you said, starting mid-pack, it really was confusing to figure out what line was moving, what line wasn't. So I mostly stuck to the bottom and the middle all night. I just used that to get a good drive off the corners. And thanks to Houston and Dustin and Alan Bose for working on this thing. The drive off was fantastic, and man, that drive off on the bottom is really something to have at the end of the race there.
And I know a lot of the drivers, when they saw this track on the schedule, I mean, it was a shock. The first time, in better part of a decade, we saw Bristol on the schedule, and a lot of drivers, I think, a little bit skeptical with what the racing might see. Do you think with as good of a race was that we had tonight, as good as the racing was tonight, do you think a lot of the drivers probably going to be more than welcome to see it return next year?
I'm not sure. Some people had some bad nights. A lot of people, especially Casey, man, he had a really good night. I don't know. For me, I would love to see it return, especially at the end there when the tires, fall off. It's really fun to move around. But the caliber of drivers we have in the series now compared to 9 or 10 years ago is just elevated by 2 or 3 times, I'd say. So I'd say most of the field would probably want to come back.
And I gotta save the good news for last, Blake, because closing out the regular season, we already knew you were locked into the top 8, but you will come out of here at Bristol heading into Darlington as winning the regular season. You'll have the points, you win sort of the regular season here. How does that feel, knowing that you're able to go through 14 races, not even pick up a race win? Of course, Ryan Luza sitting out this week definitely gave you a big advantage in that, but how does that feel knowing that you at least get that little accolade going into the playoff format we have coming up, and probably gets you in a good mindset as well?
It feels good. I really would have liked the win. I don't know how many podiums I had this year. It's kind of frustrating. But
this is your 4th top 5, I believe. Oh, no, wait, I take that back. This is your 6th top 5.
Nice. Oh, I didn't even know that. I did hear right before coming in here that I won the regular season championship. Hope there's a little trophy for that. I know in Cup they have the Monster Energy trophy. There's the regular season trophy. So hopefully iRacing, come on. I'm a regular season champion right here. Send over a nice little trophy. It doesn't even have to be big at all. Anyway, sucks that Luza couldn't come to the race. I don't know. I think he would have been really good in this race. But because he wasn't here, I guess I'm the champion.
There you are, Blake Reynolds, your regular season champion here after the 14th round at Bristol, but he's got 4 more intense races to maybe pick up the lump sum of $100,000 following the race at Homestead. Of course, we have, as we said, Darlington, Indianapolis, and the Charlotte Roval, and of course that finale at Homestead before then. But Blake, congratulations on another top 5. As we just said, you're 6th. And before we let you go, who gets it done for all involved on that number 30 Team Dillon Esports machine?
Well, everyone back at Team Dillon Esports, they're fantastic, and all our wonderful partners in Beneath, Digital Ally, StockX, and our partnership with Elevate. And like I said, Houston Hammer, Dustin Linger, and Alan Bowes for coming on this week and really putting the work into this setup to make it just incredible on that bottom lane.
There he was, everyone. Blake Reynolds rounds out your top 4 tonight. Taylor Hurst not in the interview room. So, Evan, I'm going to toss it back over to you.
Well, a big thanks to our top 4 for giving us some time post-race tonight. Casey Kerwin, Zach Novak, Michael Guest, and Blake Reynolds for joining us. And, well, you want to talk about, of course, the string of first-time winners. Casey mentioned it from Victory Lane, Randy. It was Garrett Lowe just 2 weeks ago at Michigan. That one in an exciting to finish. And just to stick with the trend, another thriller tonight sees Casey Kerwin as well get his first career win. But we now know the 8 drivers that will fight for the 2019 championship. Let's take a look at our playoff grid as we get set to go racing at Darlington next week. It is Ryan Luza at the top of the list. We knew that. Not here this evening, but he is nice and safe through. We also know the locks were for Garrett Lowe and Blake Reynolds. But Bobby Zelensky, Keegan Leahy, Michael Conti, Jimmie Mullis, and Zach Novak. The top 8 stay the same. It did get tighter on the cut line, but those are the 8 drivers, Randy, that have an opportunity to fight for the better part of this $110,000 plus purse. The champion over the next 4 weeks will be racing for, of course, that grand prize of $40,000.
And it's going to be fantastic to watch. All these drivers have been absolutely stellar. Luz is always pretty much a part of the fight for the race win. He's not had the sort of form through the last half of the regular season that he had really through the first half, so maybe he's going to be someone to watch that maybe under let's say provides, or let's say doesn't show with the sort of speed he had early on. Garrett Lowe has been greatly consistent. Blake Reynolds, he wins the 14-week regular season without a win. We know that number 30 is scary consistent. The 18 of Bobby Zelensky, he's probably going to have a big advantage with that Charlotte road course. Definitely seems like the best road racer in the entire series. We know that Keegan Leahy always been consistent, and really, especially through this last handful of races, shown great pace as well. Momentum, I think, heavily in the 62's favor. The 8 of Michael Conti has just been quietly picking off top 5s and top 10s all season long. Hasn't quite been up at the pointy end of the field fighting for wins, but that team is definitely not far off the mark. Jimmie Mullis definitely in there as well, and of course Zach Novak being in that fight. He ties for most wins in that regular series with Ryan Luza with 3 apiece. So nearly made it 4, nearly actually picked up that accolade here today if it wasn't for the 14 of Kerwin. But I can't think of a more stressful string of races. There's not 2 racetracks that, really, none of these 2 racetracks are alike. You have Darlington next week, you have Indianapolis 2 weeks after that, the Roval 2 weeks after that, and then Homestead in the second week of October. This is going to be a stressful and difficult string of races for all these racers, and it's going to be a fun string of races for all of us viewing it, and I think especially us up in the broadcast booth.
Well, let's explain how this playoff is going to look and what you can look forward to beginning next week at Darlington. So those 8 drivers going to be competing just like you see in the Monster Energy Series, Xfinity Truck, whatever it may be. They're competing with everybody else, but only those 8 drivers has an opportunity to win the $40,000 championship. And, of course, the first round of the playoffs, you see Homestead, that's on his own because Darlington, Indianapolis, and the Charlotte Roval is the first round. Only the top 4 of those 8 drivers drivers after those 3 weeks will qualify into Homestead, and then of course is a winner-take-all finale. But I know that we've been mentioning it, and it was important tonight because it would have been a different story if it was the other way around for Kerwin. There was no win and you're in the regular season. That now changes, Randy. So if any of those 8 drivers, you could be 8th in points, headed to the Roval, you win that one, you are in. So a win in round 1 of the playoffs locks you into the championship. So there could be as little as 1 spot available for points, depending on how this plays out, and all those names very capable of finding success.
And we've been seeing those names week in and week out at the head of the field. And you think about the sort of races they may be strong at. Ryan Luza, I believe we've seen him be strong at Indianapolis. Darlington is going to be a wild card in its own right. I think that could be potentially anyone's game. We've seen all these guys run strong at the Lady in Black. And of course, you have to be looking for that run at the Charlotte Roval. Bobby Zielinski in that 18th. The race that he had at Sonoma, he's dominated that race the last couple years running. To have that race in the playoff format and to have Bobby Zielinski in there as well, I think that's almost a gimme for the 18 car of Zielinski, and he's probably almost already looking towards Homestead. But of course, you can't count your chickens before they hatch, so he's still got to put in a good performance there, but he's easily the favorite. So, if that's the case, if we end up with one driver looking for a spot once we end up that after we finish that race at Charlotte, it's, I think, anyone's guess to who it could be, because I think all of these names, you look at these top 8, and you could, with the way they've ran, I could say you could put any 4 of them in that top 4, and I don't think anyone could really argue why they shouldn't be there.
We look forward to you joining us next Tuesday night for all of that excitement. Until then, though, that's it. 14 rounds are now in our rearview mirror, and the regular season has come to a close. You can catch more eNASCAR action this Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern, for the eNASCAR Ignite Series, powered by iRacing. Coverage of that also is right here on the iRacing Esports Network. But until next time, for our director, Hugo Luis, for Alex Horde on the cameras, the broadcast graphics by Andy Werder and Simon Grossman, and for your broadcast team tonight, for myself, Evan Pasoko, and Randy Chenneth in the booth, downstairs, Justin Prince on the background support, and for everybody else behind the scenes, want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Casey Kerwin, a first-time winner at the top level of Oval Sim Racing. Like we said, we'll catch you next time out. It's next week, Tuesday, August the 27th, for the playoff opener at the virtual Darlington Raceway. That race and every race of the 2019 eNASCAR Ignite eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series.
That's on
playoffs
Thursday.
Going forward. Yeah, well, we got 2. Tune in for both. But the playoffs going forward, 4 more weeks. You're going to want to catch them all. It'll be right here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from Thunder Valley, where Casey Kerwin's your race winner. Gotta love this time of year. Only one can be champion. Let's go playoff racing.